Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful day it is today. It's a little chilly in here today because we had some work done on our air conditioning last week, and they set it to a pretty low temperature over the weekend, and we're trying to get a little warmer in here. A week ago, we were trying to get a little cooler, but this morning we're trying to get a little warmer. So just bear with us, and I'm sure it'll warm up pretty soon, let's hope. So I'll call this meeting to order, and are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? If there are none. Review of items not listed on the agenda. Catalina?
There are no items to review.
Thank you. Isn't that amazing? That's a first. Anyway, we're going to go a little bit outside of what's on the agenda this morning. We have a couple of things we need to do, and I'm going to ask Debbie to come forward now. Gord, would you like to make a motion first?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we bring forward report CL 3518 from Debbie LaRue.
Thank you. Would you like to move that recommendation, Councillor Hyatt?
Hang on. I don't have my report up. So. Computer's still off. Sure, we'll bring that forward. Yeah.
Bring that forward. All those in favor? And to move the recommendation, Councillor Hyatt?
I don't have the recommendation.
Oh.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Somebody else have
I'll read the recommendation if you
okay.
like. That report CL 3518 be received for information, that council determine if they wish to appoint Mr. Gary Rona to the vacant seat of Ward 2 councillor, and that if Mr. Gary Rona is appointed to the vacant seat of Ward 2 councillor, Mr. Rona swear the oath of office immediately. You'll move that recommendation, Councillor Hyatt?
Sure.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bryan, all those in favor? Carried. Now I'll ask Debbie to come forward, please. And I guess Mr. Rona as well. Just before we start, I would like to point out that we are on Rogers Live this morning. Thanks for coming.
Okay, I would ask Mr. Rona if he could read the oath of office, please.
I, Gary Rona, having been appointed to the office of Ward 2 Councillor in the municipality of the Corporation of the Township of Uxbridge, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of the office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and know that it is of the same force.
And you swear that this is true to the best of your knowledge, help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Please join us, Gary. Councillor Rona, I should say. One more item on the that we'll deal with. Councillor Barton, I think you have a resolution there. Would you mind reading that for us?
Okay, resolution number 2018-09. Oh, first, welcome, Gary. Welcome to the group. Very happy to have you here. Okay, resolution number 2018-09. This is moved by Councillor Dave Barton, seconded by Councillor Fred Bryan, that Councillor Gord Hyatt be appointed as Deputy Mayor for the remainder of the 2014-2018 term of Council, to act in place and stead of the Mayor when he is absent from the municipality or absent through illness or refuses to act. And such appointee have and may exercise all the rights and powers and authority of the Mayor during an absence or refusal to act.
Thank you. It's duly moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Congratulations, Councillor Hyatt. Debbie, do you have to do anything? No, we're okay? Okay, great, thank you. I don't think so.
No, but you got the first.
I did it for
round.
3.5 years. I think it costs you more money than you get. Alrighty, we'll go with announcements now, and we'll start with,
Okay.
Councillor Rona. I just thought I'd surprise you. Do you have any announcements, Gary?
Well, I just want to say I'm very excited about being councillor for Ward 2. Looking forward to serving the township and working with council.
Great. Thanks, Gary. Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a lot going on, as we all know, in the last week or so. It's hard to keep up with it. Sometimes you have multiple appointments at the same time, so it's unfortunate that sometimes you have to pick and choose as to which ones that you can attend. I'll just talk about the highlights. I'm sure there'll be more of the as we go around the table here. They had a walk for Lily on Friday night over at St. Joe's School. This was a little girl who suffers from leukemia. I'm not sure how much money they raised yet, but I'm sure it was quite successful. There was also a walk yesterday over at the Countryside Preserve for a mental awareness to defeat depression. It's put on by Carly, who was in here doing a deposition earlier in the year. It's well attended. It keeps growing every year. I think they had over 100 people yesterday, which was awesome. I know most of council was there. The weather was perfect. It started out 4 years ago, as we know, in the rain, and then it's progressively gotten better. So good luck to Carly. They raised, I think, $17,000 yesterday with a goal of $21,000. So it's they're on track, and it's a great cause. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Saturday I was at the Cobra Car Show and barbecue with my grandbaby, and so that was kind of neat taking her out, and also to Wixon's Bridge block party. We were there supporting them, and then yesterday at the Walk for Depression, very important event to attend, and also the Siloam United Church had their anniversary service. 143 years that church has been serving the community, so that's something. And this coming Saturday, Durham Region Waste event, e-waste, at the arena. Get all your e-waste out there to donate, get it in there. It's very, very important not to have that sitting around and being put into good use and processed properly. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bryan.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Gary. Welcome to the team. A couple things. Just one thing on what Councillor Hyatt had said. The Golf Fund contributed $500 to the Lily Walk, so I do want to make sure that everyone was aware of that. As well, there's a BIA meeting tomorrow night, and on a personal note, Murray Coppins passed away, who was the last brother from Coppins Corners. So that funeral will be next Monday afternoon, so I will be leaving early next Monday, as that is my wife's uncle. It is also, I'm drawing a blank, isn't that awful? Kim and Ron Bell, Captain Ron Bell's father-in-law from the fire department. So if you see Ron, certainly pass along your condolences.
Regional Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning to everyone. Couple things. I will be leaving today at noon hour. I want to go to the Civic Auditorium in Oshawa. It's the district finals for the elementary schools for track and field, and I never miss that. I like to watch the students and meet the parents, so I will be leaving at noon hour. Second thing, yesterday was the Zone Legion golf tournament. Branch 170 Uxbridge had 3 teams that are moving on to the district, which will be played at Dalewood, which is on July the 21st. Bob Harper and his son are won the regulars. In the seniors, Larry Gear and Ron Ralston, and in the super seniors, Ken May and myself. So we'll be moving on. And that's super
seniors. You have to tell them you shoot from the Reds, though, Jack.
You know what? You got to be at least 70, you guys, before you can play in that. Just so you know. So Yeah, that's it, and, unfortunately, Mr. Ron Duckworth passed away, and Ron, anyone that knew him and his family, they used to live the 2 doors down from the high school. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Barton.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Welcome, everyone. So most of the things have been mentioned already, but an extra one is one of Cam's kids' ambassadors, Haley Smith, won a Canada Cup mountain bike race yesterday up in Barrie, which is really exciting. I mentioned before that she got bronze medal at the Pan Am Games, so she's really tearing it up this season, which is amazing. I think mostly because she's involved with Cam's kids. Yeah, and then I went to Zephyr to the community yard sale, and then to stop by the library to look at some internet issues. And what's interesting about Zephyr, and I can understand why you're so involved there, I stopped by for 5 minutes, and at the end, June Archibald had me loading books into the back of my car. I loaded them into the hall. You kind of get sucked in. So anyway, fantastic weekend. So many people involved in so many different activities, and it's great to be part of this township.
Great, thank you. Just a couple other notes. There was also a walk on Saturday in Scugog for community care for mental health as well, which was very, very well attended. We jogged most of the one on Saturday, didn't we, Gord? Or on Sunday? Yeah, anyway. The other thing is I attended yesterday to the concert Bellanova put on across the road, and it's incredible to watch some of the talent. We've all seen Sarah Pollard play her flute, I'm sure, and she was just incredible yesterday. She just gets better and better all the time. And then Lydia was also a cello player there yesterday who did fantastic. So, and Carol Gibson was the pianist that accompanied them. But it was a wonderful event, and you know, if you ever get a chance to go and see them perform, they are really incredible. They're a great group. And of course, Jennifer Neveu, who is the leader of the pack, I should call her, because she runs that tight ship. Anyway, it was a great event. What? Oh, that's afternoon, 2 o'clock. Oh, was it Friday? What time? Okay. Sorry, Catalina just gave me another thing to announce. On Friday at 2 o'clock, we are actually opening officially the Elgin Park accessible washroom. So if you can be there, we'll be up at the park. That was a big project and something we really needed up there. And I think that's about it. Let's get on with the meeting. Our first delegation this morning is Howard Friedman from HBR Planning. You've been here before, Mr. Friedman. I'm sure you know the drill.
Good evening. Good morning. Great, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff. I'm here today, Howard Friedman from HBR Planning. I'm representing Capri Investments, Inc. Capri is two partners are here today with me, Tony Risi and Ralph Capriccio, and they own a property in Eudora. And they're located at the south of Ravenshoe Road and west of Durham Road 1, and they touch and abut Bertie Smith Court and Bagshaw Crescent. Their intentions over the next few years is to develop 7 single-family residential lots. And before we embark on the process for the regular applications, the pre-consultation, we'd like to discuss a land conveyance option with council, which will help us in determining direction of the future applications. So this is the location of the property in Eudora, southwest of Ravenshoe and Durham 1. So they have about 11.7 meters of frontage on Durham Road and about 37 meters of frontage on Bertie Smith Court. The lands are currently have the Hamlet residential zoning on them. And the current zoning would permit 3,000 square meter lots with frontage of about 30 meters.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry, Howard, carry on.
Now, as part of the 7-lot proposal, which I'll show you in a minute, Bertie Smith Court would be extended northward to provide access to the proposed lots. The approach to Bertie Smith Court is primarily because, one, I think council has directed that through the King Cole Duck Farm that there'd be a connection between that development and Bertie Smith Court through my client's property. And also because the Durham Road 1 access currently would be a little bit too narrow and also a little too close to the intersection of Raven Street. And just to refresh council's memory, in the draft conditions for the King Cole subdivision, there's a draft condition number 14 which talks about the development and construction of that road, which I'll show you in a minute. And there at the bottom end you see the current turning circle of Bertie Smith Court at the very bottom, and the proposed future extension curving westward and connecting to the proposed King Cole Duck Farm property. There are, you see 8 lots on that property. One is already owned by another individual as part of the original plan of subdivision to the south. But there is, and you may notice in shading, there's 2 triangular pieces of land between the first lot and the second lot, and that would represent a possible future land exchange between those property owners in order to square off the lots. Moving northward, though, the 7 lots proposed are shown conceptually on this, and of course we haven't made the application yet, and I'll get to my point in a minute. And as I mentioned, this, whatever we decide today or in the near future will dictate the process for the applications as they are filed. On this colored sketch, you'll see 2 basic colors. The green represents proposed lands to be conveyed to the township, the solid green, and the solid yellow refers to lands that would be conveyed to Capri, subject to conditions and terms. I also showed highlighted in yellow borders which show the additional lands already owned by the municipality, and in green lands owned by Capri Investments. So the proposal would be to lands to Capri to allow them to continue the subdivision lotting arrangements, and to convey to the township the green lands that are identified fronting on Durham Road 1. So in terms of the land budget, township-owned lands to be conveyed to Capri would be 2,312.5 square meters. The Capri lands to be conveyed to the township is 534.3, and there's a difference. I'm hearing bells today.
It would probably be a good time to ask everybody, please turn your cell phones off. I know. So there's a budget difference, as you can see, of 1,778.2 square meters, and we'll talk about how that can be made up. So at the appropriate time, through the draft conditions of approval, if this development is approved, and the clearance and registration for final plan approval and the subdivision agreement, there are a number of options that I put in front of you, and these are not exhaustive. You can come up with others if you wish. And 3 options that we came up with for your consideration would be, firstly, Capri would build the walkway, and just to show you where that walkway is, it's the yellow line connecting Bertie Court through to other municipal lands fronting on Durham 1. The exact size and configuration of that walkway would be determined through engineering and design. Sorry, I think you have a pointer on that little gadget you have there. That might help you out a little bit.
That would be great, thanks. Nope.
Would you mind showing them, Laura, please? Great.
Top? Okay, great. Yeah, should.
Thanks, Laura.
So this is the conceptual location of the walkway. It would connect King Cole Duck Farm, whatever the sidewalk location was determined, and it would hopefully line up with the sidewalk. Otherwise, we would have to consider another location. Sidewalk would connect to the municipal-owned lands here and out to Durham Road 1, with a potential for connection to a sidewalk to the north, and to connect with the existing sidewalk to the south. So One option then, in terms of the sort of the balancing of the budget for land, would be Capri would build a walkway up to the difference in value owing after the lands are conveyed, and any additional difference still remaining would be dealt with through a financial contribution as part of the subdivision agreement process. Alternatively, Capri could make a financial contribution to the value owing, all in cash, and the municipality could apply that to the construction of the walkway and or construction of the parkette on the township lands. Finally, Capri Investments can make a financial contribution up to the value owing for the construction of the walkway and for the northerly extension of the current sidewalk on Durham Road number 1. And these are just broad frameworks for future discussion in terms of the approach, and we're certainly anxious to hear any opinions on that from you. So just to wrap up quickly, today we're seeking council support in principle for the concept of a balanced land exchange. The exchange is being proposed as part of a future subdivision of 7 lots, which will link the King Cole Duck development with the existing Birdie Smith Court. The details of the exchange would be determined as part of a future subdivision application process. The preferred option for compensation of the difference in lands to be conveyed would be discussed and finalized through that process, and the appropriateness of the lot layout, including the location and the final dimensions of the proposed walkway, would be determined through that process. And the implementation of the entire matter would be part of the fulfillment of draft plan conditions and through future subdivision agreement. So we're not here today seeking approval for a development. We know we have a process to go through, but in terms of how we move forward with that development, it would be helpful to know council's thoughts and or direction on the concept of the land exchange that we mentioned through this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, questions? Councilor Barton, you have one?
Yeah, not really a question, just, I support this. I like the idea of linking this residential development with the retail locations in Eudora, the park in Eudora, to make Eudora one community on both sides of Ravenshoe. Because Eudora there's an Uxbridge section of Eudora, and then there's a Georgina section, so to link them both together is critical, and sidewalks are a great way to do that. So this is an innovative way, and we met earlier, so thanks.
Yes.
It'd be nice to run a sidewalk all the way up to the hall, too, getting all that together, right? Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Hyatt.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Friedman, for your presentation. Can I ask, how far along are you in the application process? I mean,
well, following this, the outcome of today, we would be then seeking pre-consult with staff.
Right.
Hopefully maybe this summer. If not, it would be early in the fall.
Okay.
But and then the application itself would be filed, I guess it would be after the election, filed with the new council after the election, then go through the process through the late part of 18 and early part of 19, hopefully, with some kind of resolution and approval by mid next year.
Have you had any preliminary discussion with Durham Region yet on accesses and
No.
traffic flows, any of that kind of stuff?
No, not at this time.
Not
You're
at this
you're the first.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Ingrid will be coming back with a report on this anyway, so go ahead, Ingrid.
We've already met with the owners of the property, and I think from a staff's perspective, we have an interest in acquiring and doing a land exchange, not only to get a walkway, but the potential to create an additional lot on Regional Road 1. And our thought is then that the difference could be that sidewalk that would take you to the intersection. We did speak as well about possibly talking to Georgina and seeing if we can't use some development charges that we're getting, because we're the side that's building, and allowing us to contribute money to Georgina to see that sidewalk extended north of the intersection all the way to the hall in Eudora. And then that way you'd have a sidewalk that would basically run you from Bagshaw right through to the hall. And that just gets everybody off of the street and provides hopefully a safer option for people to be able to cross right at Ravenshoe. So we're keen.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Cam's Kids. Mr. Hicks, welcome.
Thank you very much. Mayor Malloy and esteemed council, thanks very much for giving CAMS Kids an opportunity to officially request access to Elgin Pond for our 2019 CAMS Kids Pond Hockey Fundraiser Tournament. I'd just like to introduce colleagues with me here today. Vanessa Morgan is our CAMS Kids National Coordinator. Linda Hicks is the co-founder of CAMS Kids. And Sorrel Golom is one of the directors of the foundation. CAMS Kids was founded in memory of our son Cameron, who was fatally struck by a motor vehicle in 2014. And in his memory and honor, we founded CAMS Kids to support young people that are struggling with anxiety. And Linda and I worked with Cam through some formative years where he was struggling severely with anxiety, and we learned a lot during that process around holistic ways to be able to help him manage that anxiety and learn how to cope with it. And we wanted to take the years of learning that we had with Cam and share that with the world. And we're doing that through CAMS Kids. We've got 160 ambassadors operating around North America, and we're growing at an incredible rate. We've got some tremendous support locally. We do a lot of work within the high school, providing nutrition courses and so on within the high school. And look, Uxbridge has been a great home for us to create a lot of the programs and then endeavor to take those programs more nationally. We require the funds from events like the pond hockey tournament so that we can continue hiring staff and growing the foundation and spreading the word. Our mandate of the foundation is threefold. One, to create awareness and really destigmatize anxiety. The second is to share resources, tools, and tips that we do on our website. And the third is to create their stories that provide meaningful lessons learned and also provide some hope for recovery for others that are struggling with this debilitating mental condition. With that, Mayor Malloy, I guess my ask at this juncture would be for the council to grant us permission to have access to Elgin Pond for the weekend of February 2nd and 3rd, I believe it is, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, the first weekend of February, so that we could have our pond hockey tournament at this venue versus the private venue that we've been having for the last 3 years, largely because we're at a size and scale now where we need a bigger venue and where we think that we could even get greater involvement and greater awareness. It'll bring a lot of people into the community, which will be good for local merchants, but moreover and more importantly for us is that it creates a lot of awareness through this kind of fundraising event and hopefully creates a lot of solidarity within the community around challenging this stigma, if you will, and hopefully providing Uxbridge with some additional support for our young people.
Thank you so much, Gord. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Ballinger.
More than just a comment. I don't know how you were able to select February the 2nd. That's an important day because it's Groundhog's Day.
It is Groundhog Day.
and it's also my birthday. And I'd be more than happy to help you out down there.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Ballinger.
Any other questions? Councillor Beach?
Thank you, Gord. What you're doing overall and that there with CAMS Kids is so important. I know I'm looking forward to Wednesday night seeing how much money how much we were able to raise for CAMS Kids. I was so proud to be involved with that this year, and I think everything that you're doing, and even with having this as an outdoor event, I think would be an amazing thing and draw. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beach.
Councillor Hyatt.
Thanks, Gord. You have great initials too, by the way, just to let you know.
Oh,
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm gonna pray for cold weather. I know
Yes.
that sounds counterproductive, but we've had events, as you probably know, in that spring window where it's kind of been maybe iffy. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and pray that you get some good weather for that. But I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Councillor
bringing
Height.
it forward. Thank you.
Councillor Barton.
Thanks for coming in. I've attended your hockey tournament numerous times, and it's always a great time over at Frank and Ollie's, but I think Elgin Pond will be a much more inclusive venue. The after party probably won't be quite as good, but but it'll be great for the community. Totally support it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Borton.
Councillor Bryan.
Thank you. I just want to say this is great. I know that pond hockey tournament's going on for a while. Elgin Park pond is certainly in my ward, and I wanted to make sure that Councillor Ballinger spoke first, because he is the Elgin Pond guy. He comes all the time and tells us how thick the ice is, and I've yet to see you fall through, so I'm hoping for the cold weather, like Councillor Hyatt said. So certainly, I get the feeling that we're all in support of this, and thank you for bringing it to Uxbridge.
Thank you so much. And Councillor Ballinger will count on you to help me with the ice.
Yeah. I think what we need now is, from someone, a motion to support and a recommendation that that Gord speaks with, Bob and, Debbie, and just to put this together. Moved by Councillor Ballinger, seconded by Councillor Beach. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Way to go, Gord.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much, all of you. Much appreciated.
Good luck. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting either. Our next delegation is Brett Myers, Bonner Boys. Welcome back, Brett.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brett Myers. I'm here representing the Bonner Boys. First off, just a little kind of housekeeping with the Bonner Boys. We've had sort of our election stuff coming now, so I'm back as the president of the Bonner Boys going forward here for our next little stint. So how long that can last, we'll see. But basically today, I'm just coming to the council to kind of make you, well, ask for your kind of stamp of approval on something we want to do for the community that we've kind of have. I've been working with Bob and we've have everything ready to go. It's just maybe getting the stamp of approval. But what we want to do is we want to do a movie park in the night, or a movie night in the park. So we want to, our idea was to kind of do it throughout the different parks throughout the community so that people in different areas could walk to Lake Bonner, or Bonner Fields, or to Elgin Park, or wherever. But because of kind of the late notice and doing stuff, the 3 venues that we got for this year that we have reserved ready to go are Elgin Park for July 13th, August 10th in Elgin Park, and then August 24th up on the hill in the museum. The movies it's all geared towards, young kids and families and children. We have I can't remember off my mind, the guy that's kind of sets up the movie and everything. He's there. We have him booked, ready to go too. So there's going to be, it's going to be a free event for everyone, but it's going to be, cheap popcorn and snacks for people to get and stuff there. And we're just going to start this year and see where it goes. If it's something that, there is a substantial cost because there's rights for all these movies, I didn't realize. So can't just put it in your DVD and plug it in and do it, I guess. So there is some cost going there. We have a few sponsors already. We're going to kind of go through the community and try and get some sponsors for, like the commercial kind of going before the events, and try and make it an annual thing and try and we don't know how it's going to be, but this is where we're going to start, and we're hoping that we get your approval that we can go forward with this and start with movie night in the park in Uxbridge.
Fantastic, great idea. Councillor Bryan.
Thanks very much for coming, Brett. First of all, thanks for all you guys do for the Bonner Boys in their community. I think it's a fabulous idea. Certainly, I would make a motion that we support this, work with staff, obviously, which you're already doing.
Oh, one more thing before you go, sorry, before you get all...
Oh, you're going to change it already?
I'm going to change a little bit. We're asking for the events, it's a small window. We didn't really look at costs or stuff, but we were hoping that we could have those events for those nights with kind of without the fee on it. We'd look after all the different have to do.
Oh, see, I was this close to saying yes. Now you're asking for a free.
And I think it's very minimal as far as that from looking at it too, but we're just trying to, trying to look at it. We'll have with all our events, we have all the insurances. We'll make sure they're all insured. We have all the different things. We've done these, we're getting experienced at them, so we'll have everything in place, working with all the staff and stuff, and Debbie and Bob, and having everything going, so we're prepared
Yeah.
that way too. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay, not a worry. I'm fine with that. I just wanna make sure what our policy has been in the past when we've done it, if, you know, 'cause we have to have a level playing field, obviously.
Absolutely.
But certainly, if we've done that in the past, I would make a motion that we do that for you as well, 'cause I think it's fantastic. And these are all great movies, so, good call.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Beach?
Thank you, Brett. I think this is wonderful. It's a great way to bring the families together and the community together. And I love seeing what your group does for this town.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you, and I really support it.
Perfect. Thanks.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, thanks, Brett. I support it too, and I will second Councillor Bryan's motion. Are you selling bug repellent as well?
Well, we don't know. That's why it kinda...
That could be a moneymaker
It
for the
is,
Bonner
you're right,
Boys,
we
so-
don't, and that's part of the thought process, and we'll see how it goes for different things, and we, you know, it's was kinda more difficult than I thought to pick the events and the times,
Yeah,
and...
I think it's great. And you checked the times already with Karen?
We have, we've got, everything's good, everything we have on that's ready to go
Ready to
print, be put up tomorrow if it's ready to go. So
Awesome.
we have it all ready, and those are where we're gonna go this year with it, and it's all ready to go, so...
Perfect. Good luck with it. Thank you.
Regional Councillor Ballinger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brett, I think it's a wonderful idea. The only thing I would say is, I guess I would call it a good neighbor policy, is that you notify the Roxy Theatre when you're gonna do this.
I talked to the Roxy about it before. We were gonna
Yes.
do this last year, and I talked, and I wanted to work in conjunction with them a little bit, but it was, they didn't wanna work with us with stuff, so we've I've talked to them about it and did things. It's direct competition for them, like, as there is discounts through them to get licensing stuff, so I've spoke to the Roxy already.
Okay.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, Brett, I totally support this. Anything that gets our community together, and especially in events like this that are through the Bonner Boys, are fantastic. So keep up the good work. Totally support it. Thanks.
Thanks.
I'll be there for E.T. as well. I don't think I've seen it since I was a little kid.
No, that was a tough one. Coming up with movies was, wow, what a challenge. Oh my goodness.
Are you dealing with Shooting Stars, Alan?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was him, okay.
Yeah.
He ran one for us a couple of years ago, and it's really kinda neat. Bring your lawn chairs outside, it really is...
Yeah, we're hoping
It's a
that
fun night.
we're hoping that it takes on and does, you know, and it's something that we can find a good balance and just have it going, you know, that we know that it's gonna go on for years.
Sounds like a wonderful night. So we have a motion duly moved and seconded. Are there any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Good luck, Brett. Thanks for
Okay,
coming in today.
thank you for
Have
your
fun.
time.
Our next delegation is Lois Shaw. This is from the Brock Youth Center. Welcome. Can you just hit that mic for me? Great, thank you.
There we go. Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff, and guests, thank you very much for this opportunity to come and talk about the Brock Youth Center. I'll give her a chance to get the slides up. Won't rush into it here. There we go. Thank you. Thanks. So, as I'm Lois Shaw from the Brock Youth Center, the attraction and retention of youth in rural Ontario is an important component of rural economic development. And of the population in North Durham, so that's the three townships of Uxbridge, Scugog, and Brock, 17% of the population is between the ages of 15 and 29. And of that group of the population, those that go on to continue post-secondary education, be it college, university, or trades, nearly 20% of them are unemployed or underemployed when they are done. And so with that kind of disparity between the current Canadian unemployment rate, which is 5.7%, and that youth unemployment rate, different strategies need to be used to address that youth unemployment. The Brock Youth Center is a charitable nonprofit organization, and we depend on grants, sponsorships, and donations in order to run our programming. And so this year, currently, we are operating with a grant from Southlake Community Futures Development Corporation and a RED grant from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. And as we developed those proposals to submit to those two different organizations, we relied heavily on the information from Durham Region's strategic plan, and particularly on the vibrant North Durham, which was part of the regional plan. And that really informed what we put into the proposal and the directions that we decided were important for youth development in North Durham. And so the Brock Youth Centre really is not a typical youth centre in any way. We do not, we're not in competition with any other youth centre. I realize that there is a drop-in youth centre currently happening in Uxbridge, and in Port Perry they're also planning a youth centre. But we are a virtual centre in that we take our programming to the communities where the young people are. The transportation is also a pretty key factor in economic development or in hindering that, particularly with youth. And so our approach is that if we are virtual, we have no bricks and mortar, if we take our programming to the young people, then that provides a greater opportunity for them to participate in what we do without that burden of trying to find at least as much of a distance to a central location. So our focus is on entrepreneurship development, employability skills training, startup business support for young people, and that's youth between the ages of 15 and 29, and social enterprises. So we have business idea competitions. We have been running them in the high school. 5th year this year. And so in the 3 high schools, Port Perry, Uxbridge, and in Brock. And we thank all of those, the councillors and business leaders of Uxbridge, who participated on our panel of judges. And the way the program works is staff goes into the school and makes a class presentation. Now they can't get into every classroom in every school, but as many classrooms as they can. They make a presentation on youth entrepreneurship and business ideas. And the young people in the schools come together with a business idea. So this year, between the 3 high schools, over 1,300 students heard about youth entrepreneurship. And then among the high schools, 22 business ideas came forward, and the young people, some were teams, some were individuals, developed a business pitch. So they go through developing a business plan, a financial plan, marketing plan, and how you pitch a business in Dragon Den style in front of a panel of judges. So it's a very developmental program for these young people. They present at their home school, and a winner and runner-up is selected from each school, and then they have the finals where, again, it's a panel of 5 judges, and we have counselors, political figures, business leaders, and representation from some of the entrepreneurship organizations down in South Durham. And a winner and a runner-up is selected in the finals as well. The ideas that came forward in these young people were absolutely incredible. And for some of them, I think that they make their pitch, they put so much work into these businesses, and if they don't win, they think it's not a good business idea. And many of them really could have some legs, but they need that support in order to continue to build their idea and build their business. And we would like to be able to build that piece of the program where we could provide that ongoing support, but that requires more funding and time, so that's something in the future. But it was a great program, and we really appreciate doing that, and as I say, appreciate the support of the communities. With the success that we have had with the high school program, this year we introduced a program for young people 18 to 29 years of age. And they tend to be in more of a life position that they could actually start a business. And so between the 3 communities of Uxbridge, Port Perry, and Brock Township, we had 11 business ideas come forward and 6 pitched in the final pitch competition. The winner of that particular competition, so for both the high school program and the 18 to 29, there are cash prizes. for the EDGE program, which is Entrepreneurship Development Generating Employment. For that, the winner for that program was a young woman. She is a university student working full-time on her project on her business over the summer, and it will be a full-time job when she graduates from university. And between the financial support of the cash prize and professional support of consultants, she really is making excellent progress on business development. And so these young people are contributing to the economic development within the communities and within North Durham. But we recognize that not every young person is ready to jump into a business on their own. And so we are also developing some social enterprises. And one that's very popular is the Cool Cow Ice Cream Store in Beaverton. I don't know if any of you have ever been, but if you're heading to cottage country or doing something, please be sure to stop into Beaverton because the ice cream is great. Well, I know you have a Kawarthas Dairy here in Uxbridge, but you know the drive is worth it. And this business is run by young people now. It's supervised by Brock Youth Centre staff, but we have a business manager and a marketing manager, and part of their summer job is not just schlepping ice cream, but they need to develop a business plan. And each week when they have their staff meetings, they talk about profit and loss and how to improve their bottom line and what they can do to contribute to sales. So it is a business learning experience for these young people. And there are other projects that we hope to get going, and again, it's sort of that time and funding focus. Now, we've been really fortunate in the staff that we've had at the Brock Youth Centre. They've all been living in North Durham. One was in Port Perry, one is in Beaverton, and so they have that sense of identity with the North Durham community. And really, I guess what we are looking for today, because we are a virtual organization, and finding space in order to run our programs. In the school, it's fine, but we are confined to the school hours. And sometimes those young people could use some extra support and like to have the face-to-face. Now, particularly our staff person from the high school would use Skype and do the virtual one-on-one with the students as well, which works great. Kids are, comfortable with that. But that's the Brock Youth Centre programming, and we take our programming to the communities to help young people develop that entrepreneurship skills, support them as they develop their business, and the employability skills development should they choose to do something other than entrepreneurship as they move forward in their lives. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has some.
Sorry, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Barton.
Just a comment. I've really enjoyed your programming. I had the opportunity to be a judge in your Uxbridge location.
Yeah.
And then I've enjoyed your Cool Cow numerous times. It's between my
excellent.
place and my parents. So
Good. Yeah.
It's a great place to stop, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you very much. I think this is so important for our youth and, the young adults that are coming up to have the opportunity to create and build a business, learn how, and then to be coached. And the possibilities, I think, are endless, and it supports our communities in such a big way. And thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Hyatt.
Thanks, Lois. Pleasure to see you again.
Yes, thank you.
Just a point on the support that you continue to provide them after they finish the actual Dragon's Den bit.
Right.
What sort of things do you get involved in to sort of keep them active, I guess is the right word?
Well, for the EDGE program, so that's the 18 to 29, we provide, this year we connected them with professionals with an insurance company, marketing, an accountant, and then one of the local funders, so the South Lake Community Futures, who provides some funding.
So there is financing available that you can draw on, right?
Right, and at least let them know what they need to do, because a lot of them go into a business and they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And so it's to provide that level of awareness for them. And for the young people that, you know, they weren't successful to move on to the second stage. We currently aren't in a position to be able to offer a lot beyond that. Now, I know that, like, our staff person gathers them all together, you know, to sort of debrief, you know, how the whole event went, and some of them don't want to attend that last function. So we, you know, certainly can't force them. We can only be there to support them. But I think if we could have a more structured program around that there would be more interest in that.
That's great. Thank you again for all you do.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? It is a great program. I participated in it last year, I think, and it's amazing some of the ideas they have.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
There are smart kids out
Smart
there.
kids. Yeah. Alrighty, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great day. I don't think there's anybody here from MPAC, are there? Are you? Oh, there you are. Dale? No, I'm looking for someone from MPAC. Sorry. Steve Miller isn't here either. And we're way ahead. I'm just not sure who's out in the hall there, whether they're coming in. Yeah, we'll just keep plowing through the agenda then, if you don't mind, everyone. We'll keep going. I can't do correspondence because there's a presentation on that one. We could go to reports to council, report CL 3618 of Catalina Blumenberg. This is Deputy Clerk regarding the off-site record storage. Council, what would you like to do with that? Any comments? Councillor Bryan? Move the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Beach. Any other questions? Just one quick question. Was this the least expensive one of all? It was? Okay, great. Great. All those in favor? Carried. Oh, okay. This is report CL 3718 of Debbie LaRue. This is regarding, I think you'll see in your agenda some pictures of a shelter and a sign proposed for the off-leash dog park. And the money, I should point out, the shelter, the funds for that have been donated by the Uxbridge Veterinary Clinic, which is really incredible. They put up to $5,000 to invest there, which is fantastic. What great involvement. Councillor Ballinger.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you. A seconder, Councillor Beach. No other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is report number GH0218 of Gordon Hyatt. This is regarding the Uxbridge Revitalization Opportunities 2018 Win This Space. Questions or comments? Councillor Hyatt. Councillor Ballinger.
When it's ready, I'll move that recommendation too. I think it's a great idea. It worked the first time. Let's go around the second time, and I think it'll be great.
Any other questions? Councillor Barton.
I just have one. I didn't see it in this. When would the award be done? Like, when would we make the announcement?
Elaine, do you want to come forward, perhaps? Could we have a motion to have Elaine come forward, please? Moved by Councillor Bryan, second by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're trying to align it so that when the road reopens, we're still doing some discussions on dates and times. So once we have gotten the approval, then we can move forward and come up with actual dates. I'd like to see it a little bit longer than the last process. We've had some feedback from Second Wedge who felt that it was too quick. So if we could align it when the road is now open, the culvert's done, sort of do align it in that, I think it'll work very well.
Councillor Barton, go ahead.
Yeah, so I love that. I think this is it's critical to fill our downtown, but it's a great community building organization. It obviously worked really well with the Second Wedge winning last time.
Yes, yes.
And I think the build-up, the signs, and looking at the space and people thinking of what could go there, I think increases awareness of our downtown core, which is great. So the longer the better, I think, giving people lots of time to prepare. So if the award was in 2000, I think that'd be fantastic. Just don't rush it.
Okay,
which
thank
already
you.
agreed.
Thank you.
Councillor Bryan.
Councillor and I both, Hyatt and I both sit on the BIA. A couple of things I'm thinking of now as we're talking about dragging it out. Now we're going to have it straddle two councils. We're going to have two new councils. We're going to have a new BIA. That's something we need to be cognizant of.
Yes.
We also need to be aware of if this takes up more time in the BIA, you added that money, where is that extra money coming to pay for your salary? Is that
Mhm.
gonna come back to the township after, or are we gonna straddle the new council with that? So these are questions we need to look at
Yes.
as I look at the timeline, and this isn't news to you certainly, and
No.
I'm sure we'll talk about it tomorrow. We do have a BIA meeting tomorrow night if anybody's free. But that's something I think we need to be aware of as well, Elaine. Just my 2 thoughts on that, because like I said, you don't wanna hamstring the next council.
No, and it was briefly discussed at the last meeting, timelines, funding, how much my time is involved. To give you a positive to that, most of the documentation is still available from the
Right.
last, so it saves a lot of legwork.
Sorry did a great job setting it up last time, so that's a lot
Yeah.
of paperwork and stuff in there that she did a great job. Okay.
Thanks.
Councillor Beach?
I think it's a great idea. We do need to be cognizant of going into a new council, you know, moving that over, but I really believe that this is a good thing for the town, and this win the space, I mean, it worked out wonderful, and I think that little bit extra time, though, is a good idea, and I'm sure that your committee will really do some deep discussions, and you've got 2 good councillors on that committee. Thank you.
Councillor Hyatt?
And they are? No. Just, I can speak to one thing that actually isn't included in the report. We spoke about it briefly at our steering committee meetings. OMAFRA, as you're aware, does have red money that they put forward every now and then. We had brief conversation with Carolyn at OMAFRA, and she said that this program could possibly qualify for a future red grant. If it does, it could quite substantially bump that 15,000. In other words, it could be 30,000. So that's something that we are considering maybe looking at in the fall. I believe the next intake was September?
September,
Yeah.
yes.
So again, this would be leveraging more money again from the province, so that's one thing that we didn't really talk about because we didn't really know where that would be. I guess my comment, Lois, I guess, is left. She was the lady that was just here, so if you're wondering who Lois Shaw is, we also have partners that are listed there in the report. I realize that this will be carried over into the new council, but I think with the whole culvert project, we always sort of get accused of having all these vacant stores downtown. I mean, this is one way to tackle that, and it was quite a success with Second Wedge the last time around. So we are hoping, with fingers crossed, that we can implement this program and create a quite viable business in the downtown. So that's the goal here. Thank you.
The project was very successful last time, no doubt about it. My concern, though, is that I know the last time Sari's commitment to it and the amount of time that Sari spent on it required them to budget extra money in the BIA budget. And we were a little premature on that because we don't have any money budgeted for her at this time, do you? There's nothing. You're still at the 106,000, right? So we haven't changed anything.
No. No.
So that is my concern. For me, I'd prefer to see it rolling obviously next year, not this year. And by that time, you'll have an opportunity to get your red grants and all those things in place. This is a really great project, and I'd just like to see it done really well. And I believe it will be, but it's certainly not one we want to rush, that's for sure. And there is funding available out there, so I'd like to see it come, for me, I'd like to see it come back at a later date and get ready for 2019. That's my opinion. Alrighty. Ingrid, go ahead.
I was just gonna make a comment. If you're gonna apply for a red grant, don't start the program until you have the funding in place. Because with grants, if you start a program, launch the program, and then apply to get funding for the program, well, technically the program's already started. So probably your best approach is, if you're going to look at getting funding, is to take a step back. BIA took a good look at their budget and whether they have the financial means for that increased staffing within the budget, or they've reallocated their priorities, then apply for the red grant. And then when that's all said and done, launch the program. The other part because the BIA would be running with the program is, and you possibly will hear this, is whether you should be confining it for only downtown. The BIA district is big, and the expectation may be from the members in the south and some of the members in the north that we're looking at all of the vacant spaces, not just downtown. And if it's a BIA, they have to be careful because that is their mandate. Their mandate is different than our mandate. We could say we want to isolate it, but with the BIA, you may find that there's going to be pressure from some of the stores that are sitting empty on Toronto Street, and those property owners saying, we pay into the BIA, we want those properties to be part of what is available to be filled. Just a word of caution.
So what are we gonna do with this? Can we move it off to, in the fall, or how do you wanna approach this? Councillor Barton, you have a comment?
Yes, how I would approach it if it was me, I think we should give the BIA permission to start seeking funding and to start moving ahead on the process without going live, so that they can apply for grants. And I don't think this needs to necessarily align with council. The majority of our business doesn't stop dead when council changes or when the BIA changes. So I think once you find the money and once you find a way to move forward with this, then come back to council. But certainly in principle, I think we all support this.
Okay, so, I guess Councillor Hyatt, go ahead.
I think we're misreading this report. All this is asking for is for us to put 15,000 aside. It's not we're spending 15,000 today. What this is leverage money, again, for if we get a red grant. If this money is decided that we don't want to use it or we want to defer it into 2019, we can do that. All we're doing is parking it in a reserve, if you will. It's not being spent today. We're not going out and buying stuff. It's being held in lieu of this program. So if for whatever reason it gets pushed into 2019, that money is still there. If we want to open that window at September for the red grant, we are able to do so by having that leverage money in place. If we have to then turn around and get that done, it's going to delay the process, and we will definitely be into 2019. So,
although the report is pretty clear that it's pay the $12,000 rent and the $3,000, I don't think the report says it's put aside. It says spend the money, right?
well, it said will provide the money. It doesn't say spend it today.
Well, it says it will provide the money, so that's a commitment.
It's a commitment from the township for 15. If for whatever reason this program doesn't take place, that money can be reallocated by this or the next council. So that's all it's asking for us, to set 15,000 aside from CIP funds for this program.
For me, I'd like to see them come back with a budget when they have some funding available and they know what kind of funding they're going to get. Councillor Bryan.
I understand what Councillor Hyatt's saying, because we sit on the BIA, so we hear these complaints, these concerns, these problems. Nobody likes to see the downtown stores empty. Nobody likes to see any stores empty. You know, when Snap Fitness closed, that was another vacant store that we don't want. So I'm all in favor of putting some money away, parking it on the side. I'm fine with that. I just wanted everyone to be cognizant of the issues, what's going on and what the timelines are, and what our financial commitment may be. So if down the road somebody says, well, we didn't know that. No, this was brought to everyone's attention, and we're aware of that. So in as much as putting 15,000 away for this from the CIP, I'm fine with that.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just going along with what Fred said, I think we put the money aside so the BIA understand that we support this. The problem with us not supporting it, not moving forward right away, is that it puts the BIA in limbo. So then they have to come back and sell this program to us again. I think we all support this. We support the $15,000 for it, but we know that's not enough to run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Go seek your grants, go get your whole plan together, and at the end of it, when your whole plan's together, then we'll do the final support. Do you agree with that, everyone?
I think that's the intention, and I just think just the wording is the different part, and I'd be happy to go along with what Councillor Hyatt said, that we, you could use the term set aside or allocate, I'm not sure what term, or for review, put $15,000 aside for review at a later date. That would give a commitment, but not necessarily writing a check.
May I?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, putting it aside and having it available will allow me to do more investigation.
Okay.
The board doesn't want me to spend time on something that's not going to happen. So yeah. I think that would allow me to move forward and present to the board that this is available once we get all our ducks in line.
So we'll just have to sort of the wording. Councillor Bryan.
Councillor Ballinger has made a motion to kind of support this, that we will kind of put that money away, so I would support
Great.
it.
Councillor Ballinger?
I would second that.
Could you read that for us?
Yep. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with how Mr. Hyatt explained it.
Yeah.
That it be just set aside.
Set aside.
Oh, but you're setting it aside, but it's just that that's not what it's saying in the motion, I don't think. Do you have something, Catalina?
Yeah, just the motion, just for clarification, so it says, by providing $15,000 from downtown CIP funds, in-kind use of township facilities. So is it in-kind plus the use of township facilities and promotional/logistical support?
From the last program, we supplied this room for the training, the music hall. I think there was the senior center as well. So that's what they're asking, or it would be part and parcel, I guess, of the whole program.
It would be on top of the 15,000.
It's in kind.
So we don't know when that would be used,
No.
but we're asking that that would be repeated again,
Yes.
right? So-
Okay, so we understand that these funds are being set aside, is that what we're doing? Okay, but for fear of the review, when you come back with a final program, I guess, is that how we understand it? I just want to be clear.
That's the motion I'm seconding.
Okay,
There will,
Okay, great. So the
there will
motion-
be future reports from
Great.
Elaine, so.
I'll leave it like that. Okay, so we have a motion by Councillor Ballinger, second obviously by, one of the BIA reps, I'm sure, Councillor Bryan. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thanks,
Thank you
Elaine.
very much.
Thank you. Great, I see, Michael's here. You're ready to go. Come on up. You can either sit, the both of you can sit at the table if you like, or, you've been here before, so you know the drill, I think.
It would be better if the backs were to Rogers, who's watching.
If you'd like to stand at the podium, this is being televised today on Rogers, so if you stood at the podium, they could, have a better look at you, Michael. This relates to correspondence item 66, which is the TAPMO, the Top Aggregate Producing Municipalities of Ontario, and their request for support for an appeal in Wellington County. Anyway, welcome.
Now it is? Okay, can you hear me good? And members of staff, my name is Heather Cahoon, and I'm with the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. I'm a regional manager with the Municipal and Stakeholder Relations Department. And with me today, of course, I have Mike Poporo, who is the account manager within Municipal Stakeholder Relations, who takes care of this area. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here today to provide you a bit of a refresher, if you will, in regards to what took place with the gravel pit appeals and where we went for the 2016 assessment update. So what we thought we would do today is provide you with a background, give you some details in regards to the Assessment Review Board appeals, also provide you a little bit of that, again, refresher in regards to the 2008 and 2012 base year appeal settlement that took place, and then also speak to you about what took place for the 2016 base year, the assessment update that we had, and the framework that was put into place and how we're valuing gravel pits today. So in 2008, the provincial government amended legislation to reinforce MPAC's historic practice of not assessing the aggregate resources within the gravel pits. The Government of Ontario sets the legislation and the regulations that MPAC must follow. And of course, our role is to assess and classify all properties in the province of Ontario. What ended up happening was the property owners continued to challenge the assessments on the basis that the assessments that we had placed on the properties actually included the aggregate in the industrial land rates that we were applying. And what happened was this resulted in 362 appeals for gravel pits across the province for the 2008 and 2012 base years. MPAC's goal, of course, was to resolve the outstanding appeals and build consensus on key valuation parameters for the 2016 assessment update through early consultation ahead of the roll return. So MPAC's goal really is to ensure that there was involvement from all parties to come up with this consensus. So again, the main concern was that the evaluations included the aggregate, which the Assessment Act states that it should not. And that was something that the industry put forward as their area of concern, was that the valuations that had been placed on their properties did include the aggregate value. MPAC did value the active pit areas associated to the industrial land rates. That's how we valued them at the time. And what MPAC ended up doing was we retained an independent appraisal firm to conduct an appraisal, which was unbiased, to ensure that, in fact, we were not including the aggregate within the way we were assessing the properties. What ended up happening was this independent third party came back and provided us information related to the appraisals that they had done on the gravel pits, and did align with the position that was taken by the property owners, in that the amount of the, that was for gravel was actually included in the industrial land rates that MPAC was using to value gravel pits for the 2008 and 2012 base years. So with receiving that confirmation, we then moved into a proposed settlement without prejudice that was provided and accepted, and what this resulted in was a reduction in the industrial land rates that were applied to gravel pits across the province for the 2008 and 2012 base years as returned, and the residential land rates that are on gravel pit properties, that remained unchanged. And also, there was no adjustments to improvements that were on the gravel pit properties unless there was something new where MPAC did have to assess under our obligations through Section 33 and 34 of the Assessment Act. So in regards to the 2016 base year valuation framework, all parties in good faith proceeded discussions and consultations to determine the framework for assessing land on gravel pits for the 2016 assessment base year, and that was for the 2017 through to the 2020 taxation years. The key valuation parameters for the 2016 assessment update included using Class 5 farmland rates as a proxy to the raw land value. Then what we had to do was add an amount per acre to reflect the cost to attain required zoning and licensing to extract that gravel out of the land. We added those two rates together, and that's what we applied to the area that was being used for an active gravel pit. So in order to determine the framework, we actually did undertake this proposed valuation framework for the 2016 base year was aligned with MPAC's commitment to advance disclosure for the 2016 assessment update through a three-step process. One where we provided methodology guides, which were comprehensive guides that explain the assessment methodology on a property. The market valuation reports, and these were comprehensive reports that explained how methodology was applied at that sector level to the value properties of the 2016 assessment update. And then the third step was property-specific valuation information, and this was detailed information that is available through About My Property to property owners and through Municipal Connect through to the municipalities so that they can look specifically at the property and how it was valued. So at MPAC, we do take our responsibility to provide fair, accurate, and consistent property assessments seriously. So what we ended up doing was, ahead of the finalizing the values for the 2016 assessment update, there was significant consultation that took place with a number of key groups that included more than 40 meetings and hundreds of representatives, and they came from areas of the municipality, property owners, special interest groups, and other industry representatives. These discussions did include the settlement framework that we had formally determined for the 2008 and 2012 base years. We looked at that with these groups, and then what we did is we looked at a methodology framework for the assessment of the gravel pits and quarries going forward. And these discussions did result in that framework that we now do apply today. So I just want to see if Mike wanted to add anything relative to the local area at all.
Yep. Thanks, Heather. So just a few important notes is that we did have significant consultation with various municipalities and as well Township of Uxbridge in advance of arriving at our values. And on another note, as far as providing, accurate, stable, transparent assessment roll and tax base, the consultations that undertook was the first time that we've ever conducted that process, and a great opportunity again to weigh in on this consultative process is for the next assessment update, which we're already starting on, and I expect that towards the end of next year that will be another great opportunity to reach out to all of you and provide that input so that when we're preparing for the next assessment update, it's a great opportunity to weigh in on that process. So thank you very much, and that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you both. Questions? Councillor Hyatt?
Thanks for your presentation. Have all the ARB appeals been dealt with? They're all cleared out, eh?
Yeah, so for the time periods, mentioned there.
For 08?
Yes,
moving
for,
forward, okay.
yeah.
Now,
08
were
and
they,
12.
were they individually inspected by an MPAC appraiser, or were they self-reported from the actual pit
Not
themselves?
necessarily, again, so there was the self-reporting, again,
There was,
they
yeah.
are, significantly sized properties of 400 acres.
Right.
But again, through the various consultations and whatnot, and gathering information, we do have a process in place with provision of questionnaires,
Right.
which is our opportunity to go through also, as well as, looking at the licenses that they, have been provided to operate a gravel pit and whatnot.
So what proportion would MPAC personally inspect, I guess, or have an appraiser sent to the site?
Well,
Do you have a
there
number?
could be other instances that we may inspect. I mean, there may be a building permit that's been issued on the property
Okay.
for a structure and whatnot, and we would go out and have a look at, as well as we may, many times as well, we do consult with the building department, the chief building official,
Right.
on a number of, items as well, so to gather building plans and obtain zoning information as well from municipalities. So there is a gathering information at any point in time, but that would be a great opportunity when, for
To
us
do
to
that
go
one.
out and inspect the property.
We also utilize things like aerial photography and things like that for those larger
To show.
properties to try to determine what's being used as well.
Because
to inform the
obviously you have
land.
pits, some are expanding, some are going dormant, if I can use that word, even though the license is still active.
Yep.
So if they're self-reporting on, let's say 10% use of that
Mhm.
site,
Yeah.
it could be substantially different, obviously, right? So
Yes.
So that kind of goes back to my question, are they actually being inspected, or are we solely relying on them to tell us, or tell you, rather,
Well, there-
what's active and what isn't, I guess?
So there are various sources, and as well, Heather mentioned the aerial photography is done so on a regular basis. So
Do you sort of spot check it, or what would initiate you to look at an ortho of a pit? Is there questions that pop up maybe that you want to deal with, or how would you decide, or are you going to do it for all of them, I guess is the question.
Well, basically,
It would be
after
kind of
going through all the...
onerous, I think, to look at every pit, obviously,
Yeah.
on a progressive level over time, so.
We will, from time to time, again, get to the various properties, again, for various reasons, and again, going through
Okay.
the assessment appeals, we would have looked at, not just one item, but we would be looking at,
Different things.
a compilation of information.
Okay.
But again, too, part of the consultative process, and again, information gathering, and again, this is going to be increased significantly for the next assessment update as far as that consultative
Right.
process.
Okay.
And again, ensuring we have accurate values
Okay.
on those properties.
Thank you.
But that's subject to, as well, a lot of these properties changes as you indicated, but it's similar to any other property out there that may be doing work at a property that we may not know about and maybe not take out a building permit and whatnot. But we
Okay.
do eventually get to those properties.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, my other question would be to our treasurer, does these new guidelines have any effect on our budget for next year, or foreseeable effect?
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so of course, these, have already been in place, so no, it does not affect next year's budget.
Just a quick note. I know with Tapmo at their meetings, that one of their concerns was I think that the process to get a licensed pit, the argument was that some owner-operators suggested that they'd spent $500,000, and that was included in the value of the pit. And the reality for many, many pits was it was actually far more than $500,000. It was usually costing them like at the time was, how come why are we using the $500,000 number instead of when we really know it's $3 million? But I think that's what sparked this letter from Dennis, and I think that's where it's all coming from. But it sounds to me like the appeals are done. To open the can of worms again, we may get into more trouble. I don't know. It sounds like you've done a thorough job with the appeals already.
And I think the main thing to also look at is what we did for the 2016 assessment
Yeah.
update. And the idea, again, was that there was that consultative process, which included Tapmo. So the type of thing that you just mentioned was an item of discussion, and how we ended up determining what that was throughout the province again. So I think that's really important going forward, is that we continue to have these types of consultations, which MPAC is now dedicated to doing. It's part of our process to ensure that these values are accurate, stable, predictable, and again, that you've had an opportunity to inform how we do it. So if there's things within a municipality, which we did with Uxbridge early on, that we need to have a discussion on, we do that before we put the values in place. So I think that's very important to know. And if something is appealed for the 2016 base year, that it opens it up for appeal to all. So that would be the property owner again, the Ontario Stone, Sand and Aggregate would have the ability to obviously weigh in if those properties were to be appealed again.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in. My question is, can you give us some real numbers? So if there's a 400-acre pit in Uxbridge, how much property taxes are they paying on average? Because typically their buildings are portable. Is the scale included in their impact assessment? Is their infrastructure, their internal pit roads, is that included in their value?
Yeah, I could give you an idea. It's so if you did have a 400-acre parcel, again, depending on the Class 5 land rate, which would be the sort of varying piece, you'd be looking anywhere between maybe $11,000 to $12,000 an acre. So again, you multiply that by the 400 acres.
Yeah.
That would give you your total value. And then we would look at what are the areas being used for. The areas that are, actively extracting, aggregate and whatnot, they'll be classed as IT, so industrial tax class. And then the other varying uses that may take place on these properties. As far as a waste scale and, any structures that are not used as part of the aggregate process, we would have a value. We're using the cost approach to value, so replacement cost, new less depreciation. So you have a value for that represents the land, and then you'll have a value for any of the structures that are in fact accessible according to the Assessment Act, and then you have your total value for the property, which is partitioned or portioned based on the various uses that are being conducted on that 400-acre parcel.
Okay, like we do with farmland?
Yep.
Similar. Okay, so then, again, just an estimate, say give or take 25%, what's a 400-acre gravel pit in Uxbridge paying for taxes?
So our role, for MPAC, our role is to assess and classify property. So we don't set tax rates or collect taxes on that. So again, I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Okay, so how about, I'll take it back one step then. What is their non-industrial value you gave to me, which is $11,000 or $12,000 an acre? If their percentage of industrial is say 25% of their pit is industrial, what's that value?
So basically, we would look at the acreage that's used for active extracting, if you will.
Yeah.
And then we would apply that, 11 or to 12,000 an acre rate to that portion.
Yeah.
And then that would be classed as IT.
Okay.
Tax class. So, and then again, whatever uses, if they're stockpiling, whatnot, there may be an RT tax class on there assigned as well. There may be some farming occurring on these properties. So I wouldn't be able to answer you like on the spot, like from a hypothetical perspective.
Okay.
So,
I don't mean to be aggressive. It's just this whole thing started with a councillor or mayor, I can't even remember, came forward with a letter that said, I have a gravel pit in my municipality that's paying less than the 4-bedroom house that's being affected by it. And then we all understand that the wear and tear on our roads and that portion, that's a huge cost to our municipality that we don't necessarily get back.
That letter was from Dennis, who was the chairman of TAPMO.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So that's the concern, is making sure that we all as businesses and citizens of a municipality are paying our fair share of taxes. And the feeling right now is that the gravel companies and maybe some others are getting a pretty good deal.
Councillor
Again,
Brown.
that was done through the actual consultation process. Those types of things would have come forward, and that's how we ended up determining on the framework that we now use to value the gravel pits. So again, all those types of things would have been discussed during these various meetings that took place before we returned the values for the 2016, but also through the discussions that we had when the appeals were still active for the 2008 and 2012 to determine that framework for that, to resolve those appeals, to ensure that the municipalities going forward, again, had some stability. So all of those types of discussions and issues were brought forward, and that's been taken into consideration.
I will also add, so the legislation that's set by the Province of Ontario directs us through the Assessment Act that we're not permitted to value the aggregate in the ground.
Yep.
So that's a key thing. So the new methodology that's, came up with through consultation and so clearly aligns with the Assessment Act, and that stating that we're not assessing the aggregate in the ground. So there's two different things. I can appreciate, the concern, but, there's the legislation there that we must abide by. There's that consultative process that was undertaken for the last assessment update. And further to that, a great opportunity to weigh in for the next assessment update. We've already started getting the framework in place to move ahead on that. Towards the end of next year, there'll be another opportunity to weigh in on any concerns, any issues, any additional information that maybe we should consider. So that'd be a great time at that point.
Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I look at what's fair and what's reasonable, as you guys do. When I read the letter there that's come in from Wellington, from Dennis Lever to deal with Aaron and Pushlich and Guelph, and they say, well, gosh, there's a 2-story, 4-bedroom house that sits here with 1 acre of land, and across the street there's 100 acres, an aggregate, and the taxes on the house and the acre of land are more than what they're paying for the gravel tax. So I guess my question is, the methodology, this is ongoing all the time? I mean, you're still consulting on this to do with the aggregates? Because I know you're being challenged right now on
so basically, with this assessment update, the rates and the methodology are in place. And so for the next assessment update, there'll be that opportunity to weigh in and have that consultation in advance of the next assessment update, which will take place effective 2021 January taxation year.
Well, you're tied in with legislation, but does it hardly seems fair that the house over here is paying more taxes than the 100 acres over there.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to comment on that, like a hypothetical scenario. And again, we'd have to look at the circumstances, but basically they're two different properties with different uses, different zoning. So there's many differences on looking at that. And again, I appreciate that sort of comparity, but we have a methodology in place that has been consulted with all parties. Everyone's been involved. And to arrive at, again, the difference here is we can't value that aggregate in the ground. So homes, like residential homes, are valued on the direct comparison approach. So the sales determine the values of homes, which we look at. So the market, it's basically the market determines the values of properties.
So on that, getting everybody involved, Donna would just like to make a quick comment, our treasurer. Donna, go ahead.
So Jack, I've read the email too. The email doesn't really give a lot of details. I mean, you could be looking at a home, a 4-bedroom home that might be 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. It could be quite a mansion in a great location on a very large parcel of land, and you could be comparing that against a aggregate site which is pretty much inactive. It's not really been, it's almost bitten through its process and fully gravel may be fully mined, and there could be parts of it that are managed forest and also parts of that 100-acre land that are also farm or managed forest. So those rates there, with managed forest, we tax it at 25% of the residential rate, and for a farm, we tax that at 25% of the residential rate. So that could, and I can't speak to this because I don't know the factors, but those are factors that are unknown in this circumstances, but that could largely affect the property taxes that both sites are paying.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just through you to Donna, can we talk about a real example in Uxbridge then? Do we have one, a typical house on Wag Road versus a gravel pit on Wag Road? Say, again, 2-acre lot, 4-bedroom, assessed at, say, $950,000.
How about we get Donna to supply that information to us, and she'll give us maybe some info afterwards.
Okay,
rather than now, I don't know if we can put her on the spot right now.
No, I understand. It's just, and I get that. It's just because these guys are here, I'd love to have real information.
They're not far away. So would you mind, Donna, just getting the information for us?
And I think the thing is all the gravel pits will vary quite a bit, is what you'll likely find. Is that correct, Mike? Depending on what stage they are, how large they are, what's going on with the uses of the property?
If they're stockpiling, or, I mean, I know some of these properties have been grown with weeds, they still have a license, but, so there's various states, of activity going on, so I'm not sure a comparison would sort of validate, either way, whether one, sort of method is better than the other for valuing different property types, but the basically approaches to value are there, for, the reasons on, again, first of all, on how they transact in the marketplace and whatnot. Again, bearing in mind with us, we have to, again, the key thing is we have to abide by that legislation, which is key. And, our past methodology, while we were valuing them, was valuing aggregate in the ground.
Thanks, Michael.
And we're not permitted to do that.
Councillor Ballinger.
Something just dawned on me. So let me look at a farm, and let me look at a person that's growing vegetables, and then they put a stand out in front of their farm, and they're selling their goods. When you assess, what do you assess on that farm?
It's not retail.
Basically, with farm property, the values, it's the productivity of the land that determines the value of farm property.
That's it.
The productivity of the land determines the value of those properties. Again, if there's a stand and they're growing vegetables off their farm, then again, it'll be assessed as a farm.
Okay, thank you.
Would somebody like to bring correspondence 66 forward, please? It's tabled, to lift from the table. Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Beach. All's in favor? All right, now can we deal with this item, 66? We can receive it, if you like, for information. Councillor Bryan. Seconded by Councillor Ballinger. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Great. Thank you so much. Oh, do you have another question, Councillor Barton?
Not a question, just a motion that's in regards to this topic.
Sure.
Could we have Donna come back with a report with, say, the average tax value we're getting and how we're coming up with it on a few different gravel pits and comparing those to residential? Without the names of the pits specifically?
Can you do something, Donna, to give us a comparison? It can be at a very high level, I think.
Yeah, we can look into that, but you've got to be very careful on what properties you choose and how you kind of interpret the information. That's my only concern.
So I think what Donna's saying is if we get a report back with 2 pits, we can't run around telling everybody our gravel pits only pay $12,000 or whatever the number is.
No,
they're all very specific,
No,
so
and
I think that's where Donna's going.
Yeah, and I get it. Again, here we're kind of blind. We're making decisions on this and we have no real data. That's all. We have data on how we're coming up with values, but we don't actually see how that compares to what our costs are for those properties.
And I think the thing is the value of homes are determined differently than gravel pits.
Obviously.
So.
Which is again why we need data for me to understand it anyway.
So we have a motion from Councillor Barton. What does it say exactly, Councillor Barton?
That we could have our treasurer, Donna, come back to us with a report explaining...
With a few examples.
With a few examples on residential versus gravel operations and our tax base.
Could I have a seconder for that, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Ballinger, all's in favor? Carried. Great, thank you so much for coming out again. I know you spent lots of time up here and we appreciate it, so thanks for coming up again. Our next delegation is Steve Miller. Steve, you can use the podium over there if you like. Just hit the little button and away you go. And just for your information, Todd is here as well from CRINS. The little button right in the mic there, Steve, hit that purple button. Yeah, on the bottom of it, right at the bottom of it. You're good. So as I said, Todd is here from CRINS, who we use as our third party, and I think he sent out an email very early this morning. Did you receive it, Steve?
I have
an email
received
this morning?
I
Okay.
have received it.
It was very early.
I haven't yet digested it.
Okay.
It was, it came in pretty early this morning, I think. It was about
Yeah,
7
about 7
in the
o'clock,
morning.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, well, good morning, Mr. Mayor
Morning.
and Council. My name is Steve Miller, as I've been introduced. I was hoping that my wife, Caroline Jackson, who was party to a lot of the detailed documentation that went into the report that we wrote, she's unable to be here, and her apologies for that. However, I would like to ask that you recognize that she did a lot of this groundwork. Okay, I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. It is something that both of us are very passionate about, and I really want to discuss the documentation that was delivered to you last week. You probably late in the week, no doubt, but the documentation presents concerns and issues relevant to the proposed installation of a communication tower in Zephyr. And I just have to ask you, tongue-in-cheek, has anyone read it?
Absolutely.
You have, okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. It does represent some opposition to Council's decision on March the 5th in its role as Land Use Authority, when it effectively gave permission to EuroTV Inc. to build a huge 100-foot, and I believe it is now a higher than 100-foot communication tower in the heart of the hamlet of Zephyr. Purpose of the deputation today is really ask Council to examine the issues and concerns expressed in our documentation and evaluate whether enough due diligence has been done. We believe there has not, and this deputation is a call to reverse, or at the very least, to put more specific constraints on the building of what we think is a monstrous tower. Incidentally, it's not just in my backyard, it's actually affecting the backyards of most of the residents of Zephyr. This deputation was kindly agreed to with Uxbridge CAO some 10 days ago, and miraculously the tower was erected while we were preparing this submission. So forgive me for feeling some frustration here, but it's a little bit like shutting the stable door after the horses bolted. However, the points that are going to be made, I believe, are still relevant, and I will go through them. The report actually covered 8 main issues, and I'm going to go through them as quick as I possibly can here. The first 2 may take a little longer, but the rest will be quick. Issue number 1, the tower location. This is a little subjective, but it's the way some Zephyr residents see it, the opinions I'm going to express here. No one in Zephyr would argue that better internet speed is a bad thing. The tower location, however, is a bad thing for the hamlet of Zephyr. The tower location is an eyesore, it's intrusive, it towers over surrounding houses, it will blemish the skyline of Zephyr for a long, long time. It is reputedly now, I believe, 120 foot high, and it can legally go a lot higher. I would ask council members, just from your perspective as individual residents of your own community, how would you feel about a 120-foot tower built 300 to 400 feet away from your home? And this is, I have to say, this is a subjective part of my appeal to you. But nonetheless, I think it is a cause for concern. With no discussion, no collaboration, no alternatives, apparently properly researched. This tower is a height of at least a 10-story, probably 15-story office block and dominates our community. What happened to discussion on co-sharing of existing towers? What happened to the use of municipal land? Assuming that the goal was improving internet speeds in Zephyr, what happened to the possibility of accelerating the availability of fiber to Zephyr? Was there any discussion done on it? Who had at heart the interests of all the people of Zephyr? And from our perspective, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Malloy, you were councillor at that time for Zephyr, and our discussions with you on this topic have not yielded any real confirmation and comfort that all the people of Zephyr were involved. The public meeting organised on February the 6th by Mr. Malloy was ill-advertised from our perspective.
Sorry, it was an information night. I just want to be clear, Steve. It was an information night. It wasn't a public meeting. That's important to note.
Okay, it was for information. For us, it appeared to be, unfortunately we weren't at that meeting, but it was an announcement of where the site was going to be and a platform for Mr. Pop of EuroTV to sell Zephyr residents on the virtue of his internet service. What happened to the idea of public input and collaboration on a site before it became a fait accompli? Furthermore, although it does not appear in our key issues and concerns, there is an official plan of the community of Uxbridge. One of the 5 pillars of that community vision published in it states Uxbridge Township is a caring community that will protect and enhance the local natural environment. Please come and see whether you think this vision is being executed by this monstrosity of a tower in Zephyr. Where in the township of Uxbridge has there ever been constructed a tower this size in the middle of a small hamlet or village? I would be glad to receive input on it. We're surrounded on 2 sides, the site by environmentally protected land and 2 sides by hamlet residential. In the past, council seems to have made an effort to minimize the impact on the communities by having a large tower or site located away from even a small population of people. Why isn't this being done in Zephyr? Why hasn't it been done in Zephyr? What are we trying to do here? It sometimes feels as though we're trying to make it as easy as for Mr. Pop to sell his EuroTV internet service against listening to the valid concerns of Zephyr residents. And incidentally, just one little point here, the appropriation of Fiber Speed Zephyr to the name of the site, we feel is totally inappropriate. In fact, it borders on, it's a misnomer. It borders on deception for the people of Zephyr. The Zephyr Tower site is not going to provide anything like fiber speed for the residents of Zephyr. So my issue number 2, the purpose of the land. And this, again, you may find, ladies and gentlemen, may find that it is somewhat contentious for you, but we believe that council's land use authority role, within that lies the responsibility to look not just at the physical location, but also the outcomes from the use of that physical location. What are the outcomes? And you, the council, from our perspective, are empowered to put constraints to what is going to happen on that land. With that in mind, we ask questions like, what are the deliverables that EuroTV is going to provide with its obsolete line of technology over what period of time? What are the guarantees committed to EuroTV on the speed of the internet connection? We have seen there was none when this land authorization was passed on the 5th of March. There was still no indication at all of what Mr. Pop was going to deliver. We feel that council passing authorization without knowing the outcomes of building the tower is inappropriate. It's like putting the cart before the horse. Where before has EuroTV successfully installed a tower of the type proposed? With what results? We don't know. We'd love to be able to find out. What steps have been made by council to incorporate into land use requirements the commitment, as stated by Mr. Pop at his address to council in August 2017, to camouflage the tower? We see nothing of the like happening, and it certainly hasn't been camouflaged yet. What will that camouflage look like? Is it still in play? What happens to the tower when fibre transmission is available in Zephyr, possibly in 3 years' time? Has a decommissioning process been discussed, thought about? Or what has council done to prevent the proliferation of other wireless carrier dishes on the tower, making it even more unsightly and adding increased health concern for residents? So, the key, just to summarize some of those points, the key concerns, which is issue number 3, we've identified in the report. First one, issue 1, inappropriate location of the tower so close to residential areas. It's intrusive and aesthetically ill-suited to the area. Number 2 concern, due diligence does not seem to have been done to seek an alternative site location. Number 3 concern, current and future use of the tower is unclear. Number 4, we believe there is danger of electromagnetic radiation from the tower, despite Health Canada's Code 6. There was no public consultation on the site and the structure of the tower. With no, last concern, that's concern number 6, was that without restrictions by council on the tower use, it will be targeted for co-location by other wireless users. So those are the prime concerns that we have. Issue number 4, and this is somewhat unfortunate, and I introduce this because we think it's important. With all due acknowledgement, Mr. Mayor, this may be incorrect, but as councillor of the ward in which you had responsibility, we believe that from the information we have, that you unfairly supported Mr. Pop of EuroTV to the detriment of the residents of Zephyr, of all the residents of Zephyr, who deserve to have more information on Pop's application and to have the opportunity to have their voices and questions heard about the site and about the tower design. As such, we believe this represented a conflict of interest, and the fact that you were voting on this project is somewhat concerning to us. There's further discussion on that in the package. Issue number 5.
You have 2 minutes left, Steve.
Okay. Okay, issue number 5, I will pass by. There was a very misleading partition that said the council was taking receipt of a petition from Zephyr residents saying that majority of people supported the site. Actually, the petition held votes from people in California, in the UK, in various locations way outside of Zephyr that were inappropriate for such a petition. And I just wondered, how much did council look at that partition? How much did they consider it as part of the concerns of Zephyr residents. It actually, Zephyr residents represented 15% of that vote. That's far from a majority. So there are last for one issue, concerns with the recommendation. Those concerns on the actual LUA recommendation are documented in the binder that we sent to you. Two that are really concerning. One was the degree of visual change that the tower had on Zephyr. It was classified as low. We maintain it should be medium to high. That scoring process is very, very unclear. The last point, the Land Use Authority approves the construction of the site subject to confirmation by CRINS that the proponent has addressed all relevant concerns of the public. We don't believe that's done, and irrespective of the communication that came in the early hours of this morning from CRINS, we still don't believe that has been done. We have not had the opportunity to voice our concerns about the tower. And the last point, there is a precedent that Uxbridge Council has utilized before in changing a proposed site for a tower. And that was 4 years ago, and it was actually introduced to this council, I believe, by Ms. Fellness. I believe that council still have, maybe wrongly, that still have the opportunity to revoke the LUA support, or at least to modify the conditions on the land use agreement. And this is the purpose of the delegation. We would ask you respectively to consider that. And I think in particular our concerns now, we see this outrageous tower that is being constructed. We are most concerned now if that tower is to stay about the advent of all the additional antenna that are going to be put on it. It is going to become the most unsightly vision that you will ever get traveling through Zephyr or living in any part of it. So with that, I thank you enormously for your time. I appreciate Mr. Mayor letting me overrun just a fraction there.
Thank you, Steve. If you don't mind, I'll just invite, if council wouldn't mind, Todd is here from CRINS, sitting in the back. And would you like to make a few comments, Todd? Unfortunately, we received a letter this morning from Todd that really addressed most of Mr. Miller's concerns, if not all of them. And we just haven't had time to digest that, as Steve said. I just would like to point out one thing, though, since you suggested I had a conflict of interest. I would just like to point out that I can't get service from this tower at my house, so it doesn't impact me in any way, just so you know that. Todd, would you like to speak? Great. Could somebody make a motion to bring Todd forward, please? Councillor Bryan? Councillor Beach? All's in favor? Carried. Great. Thank you, Todd.
Your Worship, and through you to Council, good afternoon. Yes, unfortunately, I did send out a rather lengthy document this morning, which I think addressed a number of the concerns that were brought up. What I'll try and do is I'll try to summarize, perhaps, that document. So, one of the first things I should do is, this council may not be completely familiar with CRINS' role. In 2013, your predecessors joined CRINS, and CRINS is a paramunicipal organization, national in scope, and our sole focus is to deal with radio communications towers. So what has occurred is, quite often proponents used to come to municipalities and say, we want to build a tower. And planners had expertise in planning but didn't understand the radio communications side, didn't understand all of the other provincial and federal regulations that apply to these structures. So CRINS was formed. It's actually owned by over 350 municipalities across the country. You are one of them. And our job is strictly to deal with these applications. Now, one of the first things I just wanted to talk a little bit about is jurisdiction. Because I think one of the confusing things that quite often happens is who actually has authority over radio communication sites. Radio communications is a federal undertaking. So the final decision for any radio communication structure, it lies with the minister. In this case, the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, formerly Industry Canada. Now, within that jurisdiction, the minister provides an opportunity for land use authorities to provide input into the proposals for radio communications towers. Municipalities do not have the final authority or final say on it, but the planning input from the municipality and concerns from municipalities are taken into consideration as part of that. Now, one of the aspects that I think should be mentioned here is that when a tower application is brought into Uxbridge or into any CRINS member, one of the things that is unique, and I tapped on the concerns about perhaps conflicts of interest and things like that. One of the benefits of being a member of CRINS is we aren't elected. We don't have to respond to the public in that vein. So we look at every application. It doesn't matter whether it's an application in the city of Guelph, whether it's Moncton, New Brunswick, Brandon, Manitoba, Salmon Arms, BC. All applications are evaluated the same way through the same protocol. So there's no inconsistency. There's no opportunity for manipulating the process. It's consistent nationally. So with regards to this specific proposal, all radio communications towers are evaluated through a document known as Client Procedure Circular 2003. And that is the regulations from Industry Canada, or ISEDC as it's now called, to evaluate radio communications towers. When a proponent wants to build a tower, they come to the local land use authority and say, what process do you have in place? So if they were to come here or they were to go to North Kawartha, they would be informed, we are members of CRINS, you will go through the CRINS process. If you're in Scugog or somewhere else in the Durham region, you might be going through an internal process. But in your case, you actually go through the CRINS process. So the proponents then come to CRINS. We provide them a copy of the CRINS protocol, which is a process by which we evaluate the applications. And our evaluation goes beyond planning. It evaluates all federal, all provincial regulations that apply. This includes environmental, health and safety, species at risk, flora, fauna, the whole works of it. And we come to the local planners to get input from a planning perspective. So in this case, I'll come back to this specific application, Zephyr. FiberSpeed contacted us in August of 2017 with an interest to build this tower in Zephyr and also one in Goodwood. We have gone back and forth with FiberSpeed several times because when they provided the initial information, there were some initial concerns. First of all, their tower that they were proposing building was of a European design and was not certified for use in Canada, so it didn't have CSA approval. So we told them that they either had to have the tower approved by CSA or pick a different design, and in fact they picked a CSA approved trial-on design. The other issue was the fact that we knew that they would have to have approval from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, and that was, as was mentioned by Mr. Miller, the location of the tower. There was actually two locations: the initial location, as well as the one that it is currently at, are both within it's based on a measure of 3 times the height of the tower. So in this case, it's 120 feet, so within 360 feet of an environmentally protected area. So at that point, the Conservation Authority has to be involved, and they are responsible, and it's their mandate, to evaluate any impacts on environmentally sensitive areas. The other aspect that was of concern to us was we also did receive some inputs from residents as well. The initial position of the tower was located a little bit further to the west and to the south, and it was further down into what we would call a swampy area, more deeply embedded in the environmentally protected area. And the Conservation Authority had the same concern, and so we said that we did not approve that first position. The Conservation Authority didn't approve it, and so FiberSpeed had to go back and find another location. So when they did that, the Conservation Authority worked with FiberSpeed to find a different spot, a little bit further to the west, a little further north, which did not have impact on source water, flora, fauna, etc. So once the Conservation Authority had approved it from their own internal use, they had to go back and do more geotechnical work. And one of the things that was mentioned in Mr. Miller's submission, the written submission, was there was concern that there was an access road built onto the property. And it's our understanding that access road initially existed to get around some buildings on the subject property, and it was extended by 150 meters to get to what was the initial proposed location. And that was because to get geotechnical drilling equipment in there to actually do core samples to determine what was needed. That was the reasoning for the road. That having been said, that's an arrangement between the property owner and FiberSpeed. It had nothing to do with CRINS. It had nothing to do with the township. We didn't have to approve it. You didn't have to approve it. It simply was done. When the position of the tower moved, it actually moved, it required less road. It just, because of the location, it was actually further back on the road. So that was one element of it. So just to touch on a few of the other things here, and again, I'm reading this off of the phone, so you'll have to forgive me. So we did receive, the question of co-location was brought up. Were there other towers that FiberSpeed could use to deploy their equipment? So under federal regulations, the decision is that the federal government prefers proponents to use existing towers wherever possible. So we look within a radius of 2 kilometers, which is the standard, to determine if there was already an existing piece of infrastructure that would satisfy FiberSpeed's needs. If there had been, they would have been required by regulation to use that before attempting to build a tower. It did not exist. So based on that, we entertained the application for the tower itself. Once the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority issued the permit, they had addressed all of the provincial and in turn actually the federal environmental regulations as part of that, including source water protection. So that was the next step. One of the other steps is that before a tower is built, both Transport Canada and NAV Canada have to approve it for concerns regarding aeronautical safety. So the results of that could be that they would require lighting on the tower or that the tower would have to be painted. And you've probably all seen towers with red and white paint up and down the towers. In this case, neither light nor paint was required. So not only was it not an aeronautical obstruction, but those lights can be pretty bright, and if they're behind people's homes, that can be a concern, and that would be something that we would have to then deal with. That is not the case with this tower, and there should not be lighting on it. The other aspect of this was so when the tower, with the change in the tower, one of the things that we require, and it's a liability issue, is to ensure that a professional engineer licensed in Ontario actually signs off on it. Seems like a very normal process, but because it's a federal undertaking, the federal government does not require a professional engineer licensed in this province to stamp a drawing. The reality is, though, if there was ever an issue, their liability insurance would not cover any failure if they are not licensed in the province in which they are performing. Federal government doesn't care, but as a municipality and as CRINS, we certainly do. So we received those drawings, and that was, it took quite a while to get that. I think we didn't receive that until February of this year. At which point on March the 2nd, we presented the draft report to staff. Staff reviewed it, looked it over, and then on March the 6th, it was signed off, and we sent it to Industry Canada. There are a number of conditions with that approval that would not be evident from the LUA report, which is the report that was signed here. The Conservation Authority had a number of conditions that were applied. One of the other things which Mr. Miller actually mentioned is a decommissioning plan. If the tower is left vacant for more than 1 year, there is a requirement by FiberSpeed to remove the tower. So, and remediate the site. So that's part of the process. So if technology advances or fiber speed goes out of business, they still have a requirement, and their insurance is required to cover this aspect of decommissioning. So that's something I just thought I should mention. Now, in terms of public consultation, because I think that's certainly one area that there was a concern here. Public consultation is a bit of a misnomer. Industry Canada's view of public consultation and what most municipalities would consider public consultation are very different. From Industry Canada's perspective, and I keep calling them Industry Canada, I'm dating myself, ISEDC, they view consultation as not being, there's a basic premise. The basic premise is every tower is approved until you can give us a reason why it shouldn't be. That's the position of the minister, because their mandate is to get the rollout of radio communication services to as much of Canada as they can and provide as much competition as they can. So that's the mandate. That's where the minister sits day one. When we go through the consultation process, our job is to identify if there's an issue that would prevent a particular tower from being built. So day one, when the application shows up, from the minister's position, it's approved, unless you can tell us a reason it shouldn't be. So that is where we go through this process. Now, in terms of public consultation, the Industry Canada, or ISEDC, view that there's different classes of weight applied to evidence received. So, for example, a conservation authority, if there's an environmental concern, that gets top billing, top priority. The most adjacent landowners, so landowners within 3 times the height of the tower away, they get the next level of priority. And depending on the nature of the structure, it can be a wider distribution and a wider consideration. But what Industry Canada, or ISEDC, is trying to find out is there going to be an impact, a negative impact on adjacent landowners' ability to use their property? Is there going to be an impact on the public realm? So, for example, if you were to build it on municipal land, they would expect a wider distribution because that is a public use land and it's for all the residents of the area. When it's on a public or on a private piece of property, that landowner has the right to use their property as they see fit. Quite often, one of the analogies I use is you may buy a house and you may have a backing of beautiful hardwood trees, but those hardwood trees are on another person's property. Nothing precludes that person from coming in and deciding they want to clear cut it to get the value out of the wood. Would it affect your visual amenity? Absolutely. But it's their land, it's their wood, they can do that. So one of the things in terms of public consultation is that we look at environmental issues, we look at health and safety issues, we look at all of the regulatory issues. Visual amenity tends to be at the bottom of the priority list, not because it's not important, but from the minister's perspective, towers, they're concerned about impacting the public realm or impacting another property owner's rights to use their own property. So right-of-ways, easements, things like that. And I just bring that up because if you're trying to figure out, well, what's the weight, what's the criteria of evaluating it, those are the criteria. And unfortunately, it's sometimes perceived that when a consultation is done, well, everybody gets to have an opinion in terms of do we like the idea or not, and that's actually not the point of public consultation. Public consultation in this context is tell us if there is something wrong with the tower that we should prevent it from being built because it's going to negatively impact something. And visual amenity, or whether it's perceived as visually pleasant, although we always try to do the best we can, it's not going to be something that the minister is going to use to prevent a tower necessarily from happening. And there are some instances where we go to quite a lot of lengths in terms of camouflaging, and I'll talk a little bit more about the camouflaging because that was brought up as well. So back to the tower. There was a question about why we judged this tower to be of a low impact. Low impact is actually not the correct term. We have a measure called a degree of visual change, which is how much is this tower going to change the landscape relative to what already existed. So I'm just going to go through some of the notes here that we have.
Try to go as quick as you can, Todd. Will
yeah,
you try to move through?
I'm sorry, I'm probably
All right,
chewing up a lot of time.
No, I appreciate the information, but we got to move on a little bit.
Okay. So basically, the tower is located, for those of you who want to know, between Zephyr Road and Concession 3. Basically, the site is approximately 725 feet from Concession 3 Road and 980 feet from Zephyr Road. So basically, if you were at Zephyr Park and you look straight north, 980 feet, and approximately 725 from Concession Road 3. There are trees at various vantage points along Concession Road 3, so that if you were standing at the street, those trees would actually block out a lot of what you would see of the tower. If you're on Zephyr Road looking back through the park, you definitely will see the tower, but it's 900 and some odd feet back, so it looks somewhat smaller. So the tower itself is 4 feet at the base and goes up to 2 feet. So it's it's about this wide, and it's only about 2 feet wide at the very top. One of the comments that was brought up is there's a concern that other people could put more antennas on this tower. It's not designed for that. The design will only support pretty much what fiber speed is put on it, so there's no concern about Bell or Rogers showing up and going, great, here's a tower in the middle of Zephyr, we're going to put 20 antennas on it. It's not designed for it. It can't work. So that tower is pretty much designed for fiber speeds use, and that's going to be it. In terms of a couple other points from Mr. Miller's presentation, I've talked about the access road. Again, that was for a geotechnical reason. There was a lot of comment about the petition. We received a petition as well as the township. It had zero impact on our evaluation. We don't care whether residents do or don't want the service. From our perspective, FiberSpeed is a business. They have come, they've asked to build a tower. Whether it makes economic sense, whether the residents want it, that's for them to decide. Our only evaluation was based on the technical criteria of Industry Canada. It wasn't a popularity contest from our perspective. The petition had no impact. It was just something we noted. So I just thought I'd point that out. In terms of procedural shortfalls, there were a couple of points here in Mr. Miller's and Ms. Jackson's written comments. With regards to the statement of land use and whether it's a community-sensitive location, the site itself, we have 4 factors that make something a community-sensitive location. It's a heritage property, it's in an architecturally significant area, an archaeologically significant area, or in or close to, within 3 times the height of a tower, of a designated natural conservation area. In all of these cases, none of those conditions applied. The source property is not heritage, it's not an architecturally significant, not archaeological, and it's not in a designated natural conservation area. It is within 3 times the height of an environmentally protected area, and that's why the Conservation Authority was involved. So, in terms of fire routing and access, which was another comment, again, we weren't concerned that the access road goes directly from the roadway onto the subject property, past the buildings. There's an extension to the place where the tower was going to go. There was no easements, no right-of-ways, so that was all fine. Now, in terms of the antenna siting design framework, which was, I think, where there was a question, we had a statement. We have a different vocabulary, I guess I would say, with regards to what land use is. So we have a designation called agricultural, and it was pointed out that, well, that's not agricultural land, that's environmentally protected and hamlet residential. That's correct. The terminology that you use in your official plan is different than what we use, because we have official plans from 325 different municipalities. They all use slightly different nomenclature. So agricultural in our world is simply a cleared piece of land that could support livestock or crops. It doesn't have to be an active agricultural use. It doesn't have to be zoned agricultural. It's basically a flat field. How it's used, totally different. And what's important about that, though, is that that designation is actually a rather aggressive designation, because what it means is any piece of flat land, there's no natural cover, there's no trees, there's nothing, so a tower is more inclined to stand out. And so when we're scoring by designating it as an agricultural land use, it actually scores the entire proposal much more harshly, because it's assumed that you've got this great big open tower with not much around it to obscure the view, right? So the proponent did not get any, didn't get any favors by it being designated as an agricultural. So, again, I'm sort of
Trying to
running
wrap
through-
it up, Todd.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. So, basically, in summary from our perspective, Fiber Speed brought forward a proposal. And there was a question as to whether they had looked at other sites. They had looked at the community hall, they had looked at the cemetery, and they had looked at one other landowner, which was actually adjacent to or very close to the landowner they currently had. In all of those cases, either through a matter of commercial, they couldn't come to commercial terms, or there were other reasons. I don't know why the cemetery board chose not to didn't choose to go forward, or why the community hall. But in each of those cases, there was not an agreement to use land. And ultimately, people could decide where the tower should be, but if the landowner that owns that land is not prepared to do business, there's no way that we can force it. It's not, it's private land, or it's private use. So, but there was an attempt at co-location. There was no options. There was looking at other alternative properties. There was, for whatever the reasons, they could not achieve commercial terms or agreement. So this was a property owner that was willing to enter into commercial agreement, and so we were based to go forward on that. And so basically, once that was done, the Conservation Authority was involved, took care of the environmental stuff. As far as health and safety, the site is 0.13% of the Safety Code 6 limits. So it's well below what the limit is. And now, there's always been arguments as to whether Safety Code 6 is strong enough. We don't get into that debate, because at the end of the day, the minister doesn't care about that debate. That's the standard. Is the tower less than that? Yes, it is. So if we said no, we don't want a tower because we don't believe in Safety Code 6, the minister would just simply say, well, that's too bad. That's the standard. That's the law. If the law changes, we'll have a different discussion, but the law is what it is today. So that, unfortunately, is not a basis on which we can argue. The proponent, up to this point, has done everything that has been asked of them. We have no issues with that. As far as camouflage, they're supposed to be planting trees around the compound, around the outer edge of the compound, to help sort of screen some of the ground clutter. Obviously, it's not going to be a 120-foot tree. That would defeat the purpose. And beyond that, and the other point I did want to make was that in terms of the official plan, because I believe there was a mention of the official plan, the Uxbridge official plan for environmentally protected areas allowable use within the zone. I will point out that the Planning Act is not operative on federal undertakings. I should point that out, because it is a federal undertaking, the Planning Act actually doesn't apply. So, but if it did, that would still be an allowable use under the official plan for Uxbridge. The only requirement is that the Conservation Authority be involved, and that did occur. So, I think at this point, unless there's specific questions, I will stop here, because I'm
Well, I
trying
think
to
it's good. No, I appreciate the information. Is good for us to know in all occasions, even going forward. And what's interesting is we do have a report from you that came this morning. We will share that with with the press if they wish, and certainly with council.
Sure. Great.
Sorry to interrupt. Do I have any opportunity to respond to some of the observations that were made
Briefly, Steve, if you don't mind, go ahead.
I will make this really brief.
Be clear that this should be questions, it's not a debate, okay, Steve?
I
Okay.
totally understand.
Okay.
One observation made that sites were looked at around Zephyr,
Yeah.
and none could be found that could co-locate. Okay?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Within
that was
2
the observation that was
kilometers,
made.
within 2 kilometers, yeah.
There is, well, 2 kilometers, again, it's like this 300-foot thing. It depends how you measure it in terms of closeness to approximate to residential areas. The 2 kilometers, there is a tower located just on the south side of Zephyr that would have seemed to be very appropriate for line of sight communication for the old technology that's being used. And I don't know why that was being ignored. Maybe it was 2.2 kilometers away or something. It's this
He would obviously disagree with you. They did check it, Steve, so.
It was checked or it wasn't checked?
Yeah, of course he did the measurement, yeah. Would you mind?
All right, okay. The other issue I have is that we have seen nothing in writing about this ability to put the additional antenna on the tower. Nothing in writing.
And I think
heard the comment for
I think he answered that for you this morning.
He said, all I'm saying is I've seen nothing in writing which says, nor have I seen anything that will prevent that tower, by Industry Canada's measures, that tower can be built after 1 year an additional 25 foot. And every year after, apparently, according to the legislation that's in place. Those are the real concerns now the tower is out.
And I'm sure I'd be happy to hook you up with Todd, and if you have any more questions for Todd, you can deal directly with Todd if you like. I'm sure he'd be happy to work with you, Steve. I just want to point out that we did, just on this note, we did have an information night which was attended by over 100 people in Zephyr. It was well attended, it was advertised through social media and other things, so we have done our very best to accommodate the residents in town. I'm sorry you're disappointed, but we've done everything we can, and I think you'll find the report that Todd submitted this morning will cover amply the questions you've asked today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and if it doesn't, I respond to...
Todd, would you mind dealing directly with Mr. Miller? There you go.
Okay, thank
Great. Sorry that took so long, but there was some good information there that we needed to know. Towers are always a big concern with all of us.
Would I be able to get my report included as a matter of...
I'd be happy to, if you'd like to send that. We have your letter. Do you have something in addition? Okay, we have your letter. It's part of the agenda, so it's already public. It's not... What's that? Oh, okay, then, it wasn't on the agenda, so someone can make a motion to receive that. Great, Councillor Barton, second by Councillor Bryan. All's in favor? All's in favor? Carried, great. So it is part of public record now, Steve. Okay. Where are we at? Reports? What's that? Okay. You're here. You've been here a lot, so I think we can deal with you very, very quickly. Does anybody have an issue with Ted doing the baseball tournament this year? Go ahead, Ted. Go to the mic.
Sure.
Anything different from before, Ted?
There's really nothing different. Other than, you'll notice, I think, in the agenda that there's a slight wording change to the letter that I require because for me to apply for a special occasion permit from AGCO,
right.
They require your permission.
Municipal significant event? Yep.
And that is deemed a municipal significant event.
Councillor Bryan, would you like to make that motion?
Ted, I'll do that. This is the 25th year, correct?
25th year.
year, wow.
My wife is bringing her whole team together. They're too old to play, but they're going to come to the beer garden.
All right.
They're getting everybody together because they played in the very first year 25 years ago.
Nice.
So I said when I saw this on the agenda, I'm thrilled to make that motion.
Great, and seconded by Councillor Barton to declare this a municipally significant event. Are there any other questions of Ted? No other questions? Fabulous, Ted. Thanks for coming in.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Well, we've heard it for a few years. I thought we did. All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Do you have the motion to support that? We did that, so, okay. Great.
goodness, you're gonna do that. I didn't bring either of
Oh,
my
is that who this is?
13-year-old boys with me.
Mr. Glass, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry we're a little bit late.
No worries, it's,
We were way ahead at one point in time, now we're behind, but anyway.
it's okay.
This is about Wendy's and Starbucks development?
Yes, it is.
Great.
Thank you, your worship, members of council and staff. My name is Andrew Glass. I'm VP with Westdale Development Corporation, who also is the owner of Uxbridge Commercial Center, building the Starbucks, Wendy's, and the CRU strip that is taking place right now. And thank goodness Laura's here, because I left. Yes.
Yeah, we're on TV and we want to be able to hear you.
We're back. Fantastic. I think in May, sometime, or I think it was May 14th, our sign proposal was brought forward before council, and I wasn't here. I probably should have been for that. And I understand it was turned down at that time, and we were asked to come back and explain what we were trying to do here. And so what I did in the last couple of weeks, I had some of our guys that were here go out and just take some. Yeah, this came off Google Earth. But I had some guys go out and measure what we've got here in terms of neighboring signs. And so this is one that's across the street, which is the Elgin Center, which, 24 feet high, sign copies, total sign area about 400 square feet on both sides. I'm just going to scroll through. We don't need to go through this in great length. That's another one, 24 feet high, roughly 660 square. Just the copy area. And this, for comparison purposes, again, this is about 556. Now, I'll jump to ours here. Ours is a couple feet higher at 26 feet. Because of the size of the, I'll call them the columns that framed the sign copy area in this one's quite a bit smaller. It's about 214 square feet total, both sides. Granted, it does have some bulk to it because of the way it's designed, but this is kind of the modern sort of what you'll see more conventionally being built today in shopping centers and large in all of our centers actually. That's the site plan. I wanted to be able to see the entire plan. If I can just step over.
Stay in the.
Yes. Is there a little pointer on here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We should mark that thing with a little button that says, "This is the pointer."
Okay. Well, there you go. Isn't that cool? That's where we had the pylon sign shown on the site plan originally, well, as part of the site plan approval. Now that we're sort of at the stage of construction, and that space in there is awfully tight. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Oop, wrong way. And that's about 3.69 meters between here and here. The pylon sign is a little bit wider than that, and it fits more practically in this area here. There's no windows in this part of the building to obstruct. This is where the windows begin on Starbucks and Wrap. So we were trying to bring it just into this portion here. Again, we feel this is not a great variation or in terms of location from where it was originally proposed, and we're kindly asking your indulgence in allowing us to move it a little bit to the north and find, oops, here we go again, and find some comfort with that size of a pylon in that configuration. So it'll have Wendy's and Starbucks and some of the other tenants that are in the CRU space behind us. So that is really what we're asking for.
Questions?
So I was one of the ones to vote against it, just so
Okay.
you're aware, so in
Okay.
case you want to track me down in the
Understood.
parking lot later.
Not at all.
Part of my issue was the proximity to the sidewalk. We have a bylaw that states it needs to be, if it's yay high, it has to be yay far back.
Okay.
And this exceeded that. So what I didn't want was a sign that was right by the sidewalk.
Okay. Can I just go back here? I just want to get a sense for that. Oh, wrong way. Just trying to find the sidewalk on this plan, see if it shows up clearly. I believe that is the sidewalk right there, wrapping around.
If I'm not mistaken, where you've moved your sign to now from where it was originally proposed a couple of weeks ago, it still has the same proximity, correct?
Actually, we've never really moved it from where it was originally shown on the site plan. All we're doing is moving it north. I guess it's getting closer to that sidewalk, but in terms of the sidewalk that bounds or along on Toronto Street, it's not any closer, not any further away either.
Right there. That's kind of the point I'm getting at, that's the same distance,
Yeah.
that was one of my issues.
Oh,
So-
you're talking about the Toronto Street sidewalk, correct?
Yes.
Actually, which I guess is this, actually. I'm wrong. That's the sidewalk there. I can't scale that on here.
No.
But it is no, we're no further away from it here. We're no closer than by moving it north than
Right.
it was.
And that was approved at site plan?
Well, this is the site plan that was approved. Now, I believe your process is you come back to staff for pylon sign or for ground sign location. So I'm not suggesting in any way, well, that was where it was approved. That's it comes back to staff.
Sides of the coin, you're looking at it saying, other signs that are there that are large, that are close,
Correct.
and how come you can't?
Correct.
Right? And I get both sides of the coin. I really do, and I understand that. And again, a lot of those signs were certainly well up before I got here, and what I'm trying to do is stick with our bylaw that's current. So I'm kind of caught between the two. I appreciate you coming in, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you wanting to get what everybody else has, because we certainly welcome the development. I'm just wondering if there's some sort of compromise.
In terms of moving it further away from the street.
Could we make it smaller? Because I know you're talking about square footage size inside the sign
Yeah.
as opposed to height and that, right? And I get that, it's going to be smaller, and it looks like a nice sign, don't get me wrong, some of them look crummy. Yours looks great. Right.
It is, well, thank you. It's, I keep on forgetting which way I'm going here.
At this point, as I see that sign and I see what you're talking about, I would almost be willing to move forward on it.
What we were trying to do, if I could just interrupt.
Yeah.
Darn. This has been mentioned here, from grade to the underside of the, because this is an important thing, I think, anyway, for pylon signs that are close and proximate to the road. That's nearly, that's 7'8", so that's 9'8" from grade to the underside of where the copy starts, or where there's an obstruction. And the reason I think that's important, and it maybe doesn't get pointed out here too often, is if you're going to be here with a pylon sign, now I'm thinking somebody that's in this lane turning out, you've got to be able to see.
Right, they'll be able to have the sight lines so
right,
they can see through it.
You got to have, and so as a result, I mean, it creates some visibility. It's less imposing because there's not as much bulk or mass, I think. And that's, again, it's subjective, that's my opinion. And
Sorry, if you go back to that other picture, and there's a depiction of a man, I'm assuming it's like a regular sized man, it's like a 6 foot tall guy standing there, right? Is
Yeah.
that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah, I'm about 60.
Right, so I'm saying, sorry, so I'm thinking that's, so that's what certainly would be able to
Correct.
see vehicles
Yes.
in there, okay.
You know,
I'm feeling better about it.
Are you feeling more comfortable? Thank you.
And I followed you.
Yeah, right, because yeah.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, you kind of touched on my question, was on the sightline triangles, like we're very big on that here, and we don't want blocking intersections or the visibility.
Mhm.
Has staff had a chance to comment on moving that up the road?
Moving the sign further north?
Farther north, yeah.
This hasn't had any feedback from staff yet at this point. no.
Okay. I would suggest that you run it past them just to see.
And that's what I would,
'Cause they-
the first time we submitted
There
it,
he
I
is,
was
he's at the
expecting...
back. You want to come up, Brian? Do you have any issues with that?
Oh, there's Brian.
It's just we have a sign bylaw in town, and we don't want people putting them where it's blocking visibility, that's all, so.
No, and we're sensitive to that, and that's why we...
Brian, can you comment on that?
Yes, we'll check with the application, we'll check the sightline triangle and the, if I'm not mistaken, this went through a minor variance, didn't it?
The site did, or this...
No,
or
the sign itself.
it hasn't gone through any formal process yet.
Okay, but we will check the
Is
sightline.
Is it also night lit? I think that
Yes,
was the question.
it'll be illuminated.
From
correct.
the base?
From within.
Correct.
It's,
from within.
Yes, all of these panels are internally illuminated.
They're backlit.
Okay, backlit, okay.
Right.
Okay. You knew that, right?
So, yes.
Yeah.
Does it have to go through a minor variance, Brian?
For the, I thought it was going through minor variance for the height.
Okay. Well,
Initially.
you can deal with Mr. Glass on that,
So,
I guess. Mr. Glass, will you deal with him on that and make sure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Okay, any questions of
Thank
Mr.
you.
Glass? No? Yeah, I guess we'll just refer this to
Yeah, I'll
staff
make a
to deal with
motion,
this.
Mr. Mayor, to refer it back to Brian.
Thanks, second,
To
please,
work out
seconded
the
by Councillor
logistics
Beach.
for this. Thank you.
Are you comfortable with that, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Glass.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This is unrelated, if that's okay?
yeah, go ahead.
Just curious, what are your current tenants here? Is it it's Starbucks, Wendy's, and it's still
Starbucks,
Symposium?
Wendy's, we're working, so I'll start from the north end of the strip, plaza at the back, or the CRU. There's a Symposium restaurant,
Okay.
a Popeyes, I don't eat a Popeyes chicken.
Chicken, yeah.
And, there's a Pizza Hut, still talking to a dentist, although seems to be, going a little sideways right now, but
We only have
we'll pull
12
that
of
out of
them
the fire,
already.
I'm sure. So we still got some space to lease, but it's coming along nicely.
Okay, so just to be clear, so it's Symposium, Popeye's Chicken,
Yeah, and Pizza Hut?
and Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
And Starbucks and Wendy's?
Yeah, Starbucks and Wendy's, so forth. There'll be other tenants in the CRU, CRU strip as well, to be determined.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brian, if you have a comment?
If I recall, it was a report that Amelia sent to council, or to the planning committee for a variance to our sign bylaw. It wasn't a minor variance.
Okay.
'Cause it wouldn't have to go through a minor variance. So
Okay.
I was thinking about that report.
Okay.
So,
So it's been dealt with? Is that what you're saying?
Well, when she submitted the report, council, wasn't in favor of it, but now
Okay.
we'll review the sight line.
Okay, and then come back to council again for the final? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll be done in 5. Well, and then the in-camera. We'll break just for the in-camera, okay? We just got a couple things to nod to here and we'll be done. Approval of minutes of May 28th. Moved by Councillor Bryan, moved by Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Committee reports, A, B, C, and D. These are, Planning Economic Development Committee of May
I'll move them
and
all,
June.
Mr.
Move them
Chair.
all. Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Bylaws. Any questions on the bylaws? Who has the bylaws? I have. Great. Are there any questions on the bylaws? We don't have to pull any? Oh, sorry. Okay, which one do we have to lift?
Sewage allocation.
What number's that one?
The first one.
Oh, so we have to lift the first one from the table. Someone like to make that motion? Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried. Good. Now the bylaws. Councillor Beach.
First and second reading, moved by Councillor Beach, seconded by Councillor Hyatt, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw, numbers 2018-071 and 2018-079 to 2018-086, and the same be read first and second time.
All those in favor? Carried. Leave be granted to third reading.
Third reading moved by Councillor Beach, seconded by Councillor Hyatt, that bylaws number 2018-071 and 2018-079 to 2018-86 be now read third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly signed, sealed the same.
All those in favor? Carried. Question period. Any questions, press? Mr. Varg.
Yes, Mayor, just very briefly. On Councillor Hyatt's report on the wind contest, there was a motion made at the end on that. What was the motion, please?
I'll ask, Lena, do you have that handy? This is the motion regarding the BIA, the wind and space.
It was that the Council of Township of Uxbridge receive report GH02-18 of Gordon Hyatt, Ward 5 Councillor, for information, and that Council supports the 2018 Win This Space initiative by providing $15,000 aside from the Downtown Community Improvement Plan funds, and that the BIA be allowed to use be allowed the use of township facilities and promotional/logistical support, free of charge, at no cost.
At no cost.
Okay, thank you. And just one final question, if I may, Mayor. Can I get the name of the gentleman who responded to Mr. Miller's deputation?
His name is Todd White. Todd White? Yes. And actually, you can have a copy of their report. I gave it to you. Do you have it? It's on the report, I think you'll find, Roger.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you. Any other question of the press? Moya? No? No? Anybody from the audience with a question? You need to speak into the mic. You know the drill, Gail.
I know, don't remind me. Because I wasn't here at the beginning, I was just wondering what was the outcome about the youth center?
It was a presentation from the Brock Center. There wasn't any real request. It was just a presentation of how successful they've been.
So how were they being?
They were great. As a matter of fact, you can watch it on TV because it's on Rogers, so I'm sure they'll be playing it again.
No, I won't be able to watch it on TV. I'm the pioneer days.
Yeah, all right.
And I just want to say to Gary, since I wasn't here, when I presume he was inducted.
He was.
At 10 o'clock. Welcome to council from one of your residents.
Thanks, Gail. No other questions? Alrighty, we'll take a 5-minute break.